That's the worst thing about being a mechanic is like, oh shit, we got to pull.
That's something to worry about right now.
Yeah, that noise, we got to fix like now. The producer, he used to call us the hot dog factory. He's like, I have no idea what goes on in there, but I like how it tastes, so just keep making me hot dogs.
I don't want to see the water.
First person that came was a production company that called me out and they said, here's how the show works. Ian finds truck. Ian restores truck.
Ian doesn't do show. Welcome to Oil and Whiskey, an Ironclad original. Today's guest is TV host, builder, and content creator, Big Tire Garage's Ian Johnson. Cheers, Ian.
Cheers.
Man.
Right here in person. What's your Instagram? Before we get drunk and can't do it. So it's at Big Tire Garage, right?
Everything's always Ian at Big Tire Garage or some form of Big Tire Garage, yeah.
Easy.
So easy to find, yep.
We have to watch ourselves.
Yeah, there's nobody else on. We gotta look at ourselves.
No, I didn't just make sure it was recording and good. Phil, don't talk about the man behind the curtain.
Nobody knows what's over
There's
there.
there's a whole producer over there right now.
Nobody's ever seen the studio audience.
There's a team of engineers right over there.
Off camera.
The lighting people, sound guy.
Josh's makeup team.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you think I get all this gray?
I thought it was primer overspray.
It could be that. Let's try this whiskey. Have you
Let's
tried
get
some
into
yet?
it. Yeah, I did. It's really good, dude.
Oh, wow. That's flavorful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Really
good.
good.
They do it, like I said, they do a 91, which is not as obviously as hot, but I prefer the 111. That's like my personal favorite. And for, $50 a bottle, it's a good bottle for the price. You're getting a good bottle of whiskey for that.
So what's been going on, man? We've ran in similar circles. We've talked a few times. We don't really know each other. I feel like I know of you from way back when there was only a couple of car shows to watch on TV.
Yeah, it was I did my first show in 2002 with Jesse with Monster Garage.
2002?
2002, 2003. Yeah, we
I
did.
can't imagine how much that makes you feel, because that makes me feel old.
Oh, I'm old. I know I'm old. Yeah, I've got like a grown kid that's got like a real job and stuff. So yeah, I'm like an old
How old
man.
are you?
I'm in my 50s.
No shit.
Yeah.
I'd have pegged you for like my age.
Well, see, I'm Canadian, so you only age half as fast because you don't go outside for half the year because it's frozen tundra.
I was wondering. I picked up an A.
Oh,
there when
I'll
you were
drop
talking
a
about
few Canadians on you. Yeah, I'll drop.
I was wondering. I'm like,
We'll
at least
get
he's from Tennessee.
Yeah, yeah. Occasionally, I'll slide the two languages together, and it gets real messy real fast.
Do you say y'all when you go back up to Canada?
I do, yeah. And I trade. Well, yeah. I
can
guess
go,
I can do
y'all.
this. Yeah, I can say,
Mix it
what
up.
y'all doing, eh? I'll trade moonshine for maple syrup when I go up there too. Yeah, we roll it across the border, and I get the big jugs of maple syrup and bring them back down south.
That's probably illegal and shouldn't be talked about here. But that's
Maple syrup smuggler.
How does it feel? I got to ask you because, I just turned 40. I'm getting up there. Well, getting close to 41 now, but I always think about it. I'm like, dude, when I hit 50, I wonder how rough is that, like climbing around a car? Like you're on your knees, you're underneath the car, you're on your back. Like, is it catching up? Or
Oh no, it does.
In pretty good shape.
What blew me away the most was like I was never like a gym guy. That's not my thing. I always was like active. I did a lot of outdoorsy stuff. But probably late 40s, my shoulder was acting weird, and then my knees are acting weird. And I went to the doctor, and he's like, "Well, what do you do?" And I told him, and he goes, "How many more years do you want to do this?" And I said, "Well, I want to do it until I can't anymore." And he said, "How often do you go to the gym?" And I said, like never. And he said, "Then you need to go to the gym." And so that's it. I mean, I had to like start working out on the regular, or there's like stages, right? Stage one is like you're on the ground, you can get up, you just pop up. Then there's like, all right, now I got to roll over onto my stomach before I can get up. And then I got to roll over onto my stomach, find something to hold on to, and make noise when you get up. It's like, oh, I was well past that stage. There was points where I was like, if I was down, it's just like, I'm down. I'll just stay here and work on other things on the ground for the rest of the day because I'm not getting up.
Well, before I forget about it, before we get too far down the road, I want you to be thinking in the back of your head for later on towards the end of the episode. I feel like you're the guy that can bring us some embarrassing dirt on Tim Strange?
I think
Just
just
me thinking-
I think just Tim Strange, like his existence is a little embarrassing sometimes. You know, like,
First of all, we'll just hit that
Sorry,
straight,
Tim.
that straight
I
edge
love you, Tim.
shenanigans right on the nose, right? It's like, you don't need to rub that in my face. Good for you. You don't drink. Go away. I don't care about that. You don't need to tattoo that on your elbow and show it to me every week.
Yeah,
we're trying to figure out what's the skeleton in the closet that
There's
led
there's gotta be something.
to the
So
straight edge.
I've probably got 2 good Tim Strange stories that I'll save for later.
All right,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
We'll get it.
That's what I
We'll probably get 3 if the whiskey keeps flowing.
I'll just start making them up at that point.
Also worked.
we gotta get back to some of those stories because I don't think anybody can top the Troy story about Foose. But
You get
there's
a buzz cut, right?
yeah, buzz cut in Japan. That was a good one. Anyway, so you're talking about 2002. That was TNN then, right?
So I did Monster Garage with Discovery with Jesse first. Then
Okay.
I figured that was it. I was done. I'm not doing it. That was my like kick at the can.
How
Like,
did that happen?
I just applied on the internet. Yeah. So literally I was teaching high school in Canada and I filled out the application online and I got a phone call and they said, "Hey, we want you to come down and be on this silly television show." And I said, "All right." I did it and I figured that was it. I'd do 1 episode and that was the end of my television career. And then a year later, next thing you know, I'm getting called by another production company. And then that was 23 years later. I'm still making television.
What were you teaching in Canada?
Auto shop. So I started as a mechanic. I graduated high school, went through the apprenticeship program. I was a licensed automotive mechanic, GM dealer, transmission and drivetrain specialist. I wanted my summers off because it's cold in the winter. You only have like 2 good months of summer in Canada. My parents were teachers, so I knew I could get the summers off. So I just had to figure out how to become a teacher. There was a shortage of shop teachers, just lucked out. And so I applied, got into teacher's college, did 1 year at teacher college, and I was teaching high school the next year.
That's working above the shoulders right there.
Yep.
Yeah, that was my parents doing. That had nothing to do with it. Because I called my mom. I'm like, "Can I be a teacher?" And she's like, "Yeah, I mean, just do X, Y, and Z, and you can be a teacher." And the next thing you know, I was a teacher. So
What does that make you feel about the educational system? The fact that it was so easy for you to become a teacher.
well, when there's a shortage of things, there's always easy to get in. You
They
know?
got that whole like background check and the screening thing. It's,
Yeah. The weirdest part was I jumped school boards a couple times, and like that for some reason you had to get a TB test every time you applied. I don't know why, but when you became a teacher, you had to get it in Canada. You had to get a tuberculosis test. I had so many tuberculosis tests back to back. I failed the last one because I still had like residual, because that's how they test you, right? And I was like, "Oh man, I'm not gonna get this job." And the guy was like, "Yeah, you're fine.
good.
I don't see no ball.
Yeah, you're good. You're
Just
good."
a light bout of tuberculosis.
So you're teaching shop, and you just see an ad about this. At that point, that was early in Monster Garage, right?
Yeah, it was first season. So when the first season launched, they just ran a commercial that just said, "Hey, if you want to apply to be on the show, fill this out and apply." And just went online and filled out the application, and away you went. And so so I filled it out. I didn't think I'd get in. I mean, I'm coming down from Canada. If I'd been no way, I was the first Canadian on the show, and there's only 2 of us ever made on that show ever. And so we went down, did that show, and that was it was fun as hell, man. It was a good time.
Just were you looking at that as that's a cool experience? Be on TV and build some wild shit with Jesse James.
Yeah, I thought we'll just go down there, have fun for a week, come back, and that's it.
What'd y'all build?
We did the Santa Claus parade float. It's like a big look. We shot it over Halloween, so it ruined everything for Christmas because the Santa Claus was a skull, like a dead Santa, and it was like face down, drunk, and then it like tilted up and shot candy out of its hands. And it was the story behind it is that it was supposed to be in the Rose Bowl because all the other builders were Rose Bowl parade float builders. But as soon as the Rose Bowl saw the thing,
like,
they kicked it out. They were like, "No, you're not putting that in the Rose Bowl."
Did you get into that? Didn't you have to send like a video, like a little?
Yeah. So I had like
Do you still have that? I'd like to see that VHS.
I don't think I
tape.
do. It literally was a VHS tape too. Yeah, but no, I think I went to like one of the other teachers who did like video editing, and I said I need a video for application, and she sent kids down. They filmed me walking around the school, and then put a bunch of graphics on it and sent it in. So yeah, it was cool. It was fun. It was a good.
I would like to see that.
I'd have to dig it up to find it. The problem is I can find the episode occasionally, but it's always like deep in YouTube, and then it's like overdubbed in French or something like that. So it's hard to find.
That's the part you say deep in YouTube. That's when you do find those videos of like trying to find old Motorcycle Mania, or there's some old stuff. there's that back door of YouTube that you find there's like all the ads go away and it's just a white screen and a video pops up. And you're like, man,
I don't think that's YouTube.
no, it is. If you search, you can get to the
I've never
depths.
gotten there, dude.
Yeah, there's some old videos that they're like, fuck this. No, if anybody's watching this, they're not interested.
Yeah,
in
it's
that.
got it's
Or
got
what
like
do you like next?
it's got like 13 views.
Yeah, it's just
And it's obviously like a camera pointed at a TV screen.
Yeah.
That's been recorded off TV somewhere.
there's some weird
I
spots.
thought it was like Google that after the first page of the search, you just don't look at it.
just
Like
don't
there's just
look.
nothing there.
Yeah. So you do that. A year goes by. Who calls first?
So I saw another. I always watched. Do you remember Stacy David and trucks?
Dude,
So I
we
always
remember
watched.
Stacy David.
Yeah,
Of course.
yeah. I want to snatch that wig off his head so bad. So
You guys could trade hair. That'd be a good.
we
it's like
do.
a-
We occasionally have funny hair
beaver
jokes when I
pelt.
see him. He's got that Gene Simmons look going so hard, you know. So anyway, so I always watched Stacy, and I liked that show, and that was TNN days. And they did the same thing. They ran a commercial, and it was like, you know, hey, do you think you can host this TV show? And I did the same thing. I just filled out the application, called the producer who did the Monster Garage episode because we stayed in touch, and he said, yeah, I'll reach out, let them know that you're not a complete moron. And they flew. They've had 5,000 applications. They flew 30 of us to Nashville for a weekend. We hung out for a weekend. I laughed, thinking, "There's no way I'm getting this job." I mean, come on, you gotta, because at that point, this is a full-time job, right? So you gotta get me a work permit, bring me into the country. There's all the rules to get me in here, and I thought, "There's no way they're gonna do that. It's too much work." And literally 2 weeks later, they called me up and they said, "You're the only one that the network greenlit. So pack your bags. You're coming to Tennessee." And we just started lawyers work after that. And 2 weeks later, I was making television in Tennessee, cutting up trucks. So it was great.
Damn.
Yeah.
And, like, did they give you any type of like crash course on like to be a television star?
Now we started the first show, and it was like the first 3 shows were planned by salesmen. Because that's how it works, right? The sales guys sell the stuff in the show. I mean, it's no secret. It's called show business, not show charity, right?
Yep.
So the sales guys, they basically just copied trucks. It literally was like Trucks 2.0. And so all we did was basically, we did a Kelderman air ride kit on this Ram 2500. We did episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. And then literally the producer just said, "It's your show. Do what you want with it." And so we started doing what I wanted. And we were shooting show 4 and 5, and they made it into edit. And at the time, the executive producer, Joe St. Lawrence, came in and he shut down production because he saw the 4th show and he's like, "No, this is not what we do." And he came in and shut us all down, and we all sat down, and he's like, we don't buy parts from the junkyard. We don't cut stuff in half. We don't, like, this isn't
Junkyard Wars.
exactly. He's like that. And I said, "That's what 4x4 guys do, man. We get stuff from the junkyard. We rebuild it." So, and so he pushed back and he made me watch this made us sit down and watch this old episode of Hot Rod TV where they like put a carpet kit in a Mustang. And he goes, "This is what we do." So I sat down with my producer, Tom Spachalski at the time, and we just talked, and he said, "What do you want to do? What show do you want to make?" And I said, "I want to make the cool show, the show I want, the hardcore off-road show." And he said, "I do too." And he goes, "Here's what we can do." He goes, "We'll just delay delivery of these shows so they can't change them." He goes, "I'll just push back and we'll get them into edit so late that they can't change them." And he said, "We might get fired." He said, "But," he goes, "if you're
We
down,"
might not.
He said, "If you're down, I'm down." And I was like, man, the nice thing about being a teacher in Canada is like, it's like a very prestigious job. So I was literally on a sabbatical. So I could always go back to Canada, get my job in a heartbeat, right? So I knew if it didn't work out, I was just going back to Canada to teach high school again. So I said, "Yeah, I want to make this show." So we pushed through, made it. By the time the 4th show aired, it was back in the days of forums and stuff. Facebook wasn't around. And the forums blew up. Everyone loved the show. And so to his credit, the executive producer came in and he said, "I have no idea how your world works. So just make me a show." He said, "I want 23. He used to call us the hot dog factory. He's like, "I have no idea what goes on in there, but I like how it tastes. So just keep making me hot dogs."
I don't want to see the water.
Yep.
That's crazy. You don't hear about that a lot in TV. Every time we've had a bunch of people approach us to do shows over the years, and it's always like, "You're going to do this, 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 and this is how many cars you're going to build, and this is what the cars are going to look like, and this is what they're going to sound like. Sign here. This is how much money we're going to take from you."
Yep. Yeah. When I left at the time, it was Paramount. So I went through the transition of TNN to Spike to Paramount When I left Paramount, and that was it, I was retired. I was done. I was not going to do it anymore. And then Discovery and Motor Trend came calling, and the first person that came was a production company that called me up, and it literally was like, we want you to do an off-road show again. And I'm like, okay. And they said, here's how the show works. Ian finds truck. Ian restores truck. Something doesn't fit. Ian solves problem. Truck sells for huge profit.
Ian doesn't do show.
Ian says, "Fuck off."
Yeah, I said, well, first of all, that world, no one builds off-road trucks to sell to make money. That's not what we do. That's not our world. So I said, I have no interest in doing that. And so then another company came in, we partnered, and they said, we'll bring back this 4-wheeler TV and we'll do it like a traditional 30-minute how-to television show. And that's I came to the realization years ago that I am not Ryan Reynolds. I'm Norm Abram, and I'm quite happy with that. So as long as I get to make 30-minute, I mean, Norm Abrams been making This Old House for 35 years. I'm like, if I can do 30 years of just cutting up trucks for fun, I'm in.
Dude, Norm Abrams fucks. That's a badass dude. But I loved watching the New Yankee Workshop.
Oh, it's
as
crazy.
A kid.
The funny thing is the guy who ran the company I worked for originally, Our Turn Productions, Joe Saint, he said like that was his gold standard of television because it's the term we use in the industry is evergreen television. It's like you can watch it now, you can watch it 10 years from now. It doesn't matter. You'll still watch it. Like I'll watch old episodes of This Old House. I love it.
Yeah.
And he said that's our goal because then this television show lives forever. And that's always been what we did. And so how-to television always, that's why it always works, right? Because it's just constantly the same thing over and over and over again. People will watch it and they'll just watch it forever.
How long were you a dealer mechanic before you became a teacher?
8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
And you were doing 4x4 fun shit on the side through that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, in Canada, you have to own a 4-wheel drive or you don't go to work. So
Okay.
so you own a 4-wheel drive. Every family is like one car, one 4-wheel drive truck because it just snows. It starts in September and it doesn't stop.
What part of Canada?
I was from just out north of Ottawa. So I'm about 3 hours north of the border, which would be 2.5 hours north of Syracuse. So the best way to describe the weather where I live is I used to say to people, I owned a motorcycle and you would put your motorcycle away in Canadian Thanksgiving. So that's like early October. And then you could ride it again at the end of May. So you could ride for June, July, August, September. That's the only time you could be on a motorcycle. And then
Not too different from here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get a little bit more in October, but
Yeah. So
not much different.
yeah. So it's I mean, that's just how it, I mean, so we were out and then of course I was stupid. So I had a 6.2 diesel. So in the month of February, you just didn't turn that truck off. You just let it idle in the fucking freeze. And if it did run out of fuel or it did shut off, that's like half a day to get it running again, right? You get the oil heater out and the battery blanket, and you just spend a day trying to get your truck running.
You follow any of those guys that do the like living in the truck and do the Arctic runs and stuff like that? There's that one guy, I don't remember his name, we're calling out. He's got a Power Stroke like crew cab, and he's got like the built house thing in the bed. I mean, it's just him and his dog, and like he's
I saw that
outside of Antarctica. It's on Instagram. It pops up.
Yeah,
and it's like 44 below right now, and he's parked like at a park, and he keeps doing these videos. He's like, still can't get it running. I'm doing this. He's got like the wood stove in the back, whatever, staying warm. And I'm like, that's
commitment.
That's sketchy.
Yeah,
Shit.
we went. My wife and I went on a trip recently. We just went to Iceland, which is a cool spot. Everyone should go. It's super cool. We ended up going not by mistake.
how long of a drive is that, man? That's good.
Believe it or not, it's shorter to fly from Boston to Reykjavik than from Boston to LA. That's how it's actually closer than you think.
Wow.
So, and the only reason we went there is we were in Europe and we were coming back, and all the flights coming back stopped in Reykjavik. Everything. And I was like, if we're going to be in Iceland, we should stay for 4 days. And so we stayed in 4 days in Iceland. It was a super cool spot. But when we were there, I rented a Land Rover Defender on 40s, and we just went on this big off-road trip with a local guide. And he took us up to the glacier, and we drove up. We threw the front wheels on the glacier, and he said, yeah, but we can't drive on the glacier. I only drive on the glacier when there's a little bit of snow on it. And I said, what's a little bit of snow? And he said 3 meters.
Oh,
That's 9 feet of snow.
a little bit of
That's
snow.
a little bit of snow. Yeah, he said, then we can go on the glacier. At night, at 3 meters, we drive on the glacier.
My wife really is trying to get me to go to Iceland. I keep telling her there's no fucking way.
I'd go. That'd be cool to check.
Dude,
out.
it's so here's the cool thing. So I didn't know this. My wife, we literally stopped, and I thought, I mean, we're both from Canada. She'd never seen the Northern Lights, And I had, because I grew up in like rural Canada. She grew up in Toronto, which is little America, right? And so when we got there, she's like, I've never seen the Northern Lights. And so I was like, oh, we did a Northern Lights tour, and you jumped this bus and ripped up. And yeah, no, it's a cool spot. And it really is. If you jump out of Boston, it's a 3.5 hour flight. 3.5 hour flight, you're into Reykjavik. Well, you're into Kekjavik, which is then an hour outside of Reykjavik. And then it's just a cool little city, man. It's super neat. Everyone speaks English. I was worried like there'd be a language barrier, but no, everyone, because nobody speaks Icelandic. And it's got cool history too. I didn't realize this till we went there. Iceland is technically when the U.S. military joined World War II. It's not talked about. It's not advertised. Pearl Harbor is not when the U.S. military joined World War II. Hitler had found out that there was this island full of former Vikings that were white-skinned and blonde-haired that had never had anybody else infiltrate their island. That
He
was
wanted a
Iceland.
piece of that?
And he wanted that. And he knew that if he put an airfield in Iceland, that'd be the end of England, because he could just jump from France to Iceland and back and just bomb constantly, never, and that'd be the end of Great Britain. So Churchill dropped soldiers in Iceland just to keep Hitler out. But at that time, Iceland was part of Norway, and Hitler had already invaded Norway. And Churchill didn't want to leave soldiers there. He wanted them on the front lines. So he convinced the U.S. to put a base in Reykjavik. And so they came in, and that was technically when the U.S. entered World War II.
Huh.
And when they landed there, and our local guide was telling me this, there was nothing. There wasn't a bridge or a paved road in Iceland at the start of World War II. He goes, we had nothing. Really? They were still like living like Vikings, nomadic sheep herders. Like, because that's the way we lived. That's all we knew. And the GI showed up, and they were like, no, we need hot dogs and we need roads. And he said they just built everything. He goes, they drug us into the 20th century, kicking and screaming.
Can you imagine a U.S. service dude from the rural parts of Kentucky in 3?
Yep, landing in Iceland.
What the fuck? That would be quite the damn shock. Wow.
Yeah, that or Hawaii. Which base do you want?
Yeah.
Pearl Harbor or Iceland?
What's the draw? What does she want to go to
She's never
Iceland
been.
for?
She's traveled a whole bunch of places throughout her life, and I've gone to like 3 places in my life. So he's trying to drag me out. But yeah, she claims it's beautiful, super clean. Everybody's incredibly friendly.
Oh, they were.
All types of
And what
cool
blew,
attractions. And
yeah, you can go. I didn't do it. I'm not a cold person, so it was kind of weird for me to even want to go because I lived in Canada for so long. But you can go and you can like scuba dive between the 2 continental plates, the North America and the Eurasia plate, and you can like go down and touch either side of the continental plate if you want to, which is kind of weird to me because it's like literally the water's like 2 degrees. But yeah, no, everybody's cool, super cool spot, super friendly. Food was amazing. Yeah.
Food? What kind of food?
A lot of it's obviously lamb, like sheep and lamb and stuff. Yeah. But they've got like, we went on a food. I mean, as you can tell from my physique, I eat
Healthy.
well.
You eat healthy.
Yeah. And so we always do like food tours and stuff. And so we did a food tour and we went we had the fermented shark. We had all the local stuff. Yeah.
Is that edible? I've seen some videos on that.
It's
just
not edible
nasty.
anyway. No. And they scare the shit out of you because it's literally fermented. It's like poison. They're like, do not breathe in while you chew this or you will throw up.
That's
like,
But I'm putting it in my mouth.
They hang it in barns for like years.
Yeah,
right?
it's like a thing. It's like it's a traditional thing. And the guy explained to me. He said we still do it because it's like it's tradition, right? It's like this is what we do. This is from our old country. This is what we had to live off of. So appreciate that hot dog that you're eating right now because you used to have to eat fermented shark. So yeah, it's not good. Not good in any way.
Wow.
We should go. We need more culture. I feel like car shows, 20 years of car shows just brings us to like
different culture.
Columbus, Ohio.
Des Moines, Iowa.
Louisville, Kentucky.
I have a friend who his wife does all the Amazon international warehousing setups, and I'll talk to her and I'll say it must be so great you get to travel, and she's like, you don't understand. I don't get to see like Paris. I see like the Columbus, Ohio of France. She's like, I don't get to go to cool places. I get to go to these really, really weird
Where
places.
we're putting a warehouse.
Yeah, where you're putting an Amazon warehouse.
Not next to the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, exactly.
Where they land here in the States, right? It's always just fuck all.
I don't know how we even got there, where we're at. So you're going to Iceland, so that's cool.
Maybe.
Maybe. Are All right, so you're doing the show, you're doing the stuff. They let you just roll. You've obviously got a background in fucking with 4-wheel drives. You've been doing that shit, and you're doing your thing. You learn how to fucking build whatever it is. Any of that stuff was those personal projects?
Now they all are. So some of them were in the early years of TNN. Then when Spike moved in and Paramount moved in, they sort of started to see them as assets, and it was like, hey, we can sell these for a profit, and you're basically building a car for someone else to sell. So when I signed on with Motor Trend Studios and Discovery, that was like my first thing. I was like, I own all the cars, or I choose who owns the cars. So some of them are friends of mine. So nowadays they're all mine. That's like literally at this point, I'm just like finding an excuse to not have a real job. It's just, I'm going to make television shows and have fun. And like my shop, the beauty of now is like, I own the production company. I own the studio space. It's all mine. And so I kind of get the best of both worlds, right? I get to host a TV show, but then I also get to build out the contracts and bring in the crew and shoot how we want to shoot, which is good for us. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, not very many people can structure it that way. When I left, the plan was when I left Paramount and I was going to not do it anymore, we started building this shop, and it was just going to literally be like content creation house for automotive stuff. So we built out 6,000 square feet of studio space with just this idea that we'll just use it to make stuff. I got a lot of relationships with like Yukon Gear and Axle and ESOB Welding and all these companies that are always looking for content. At that point, it was early in the content game. And so I knew that if we had the space that the people would come and we could make some money that way. And then when Motor Trend and Discovery came, they were like, we want to do a show, but we don't have a space. And I was like, I have a space right back here. Let me show you the space you can have.
Have a space.
I'll lease it to you for X number of dollars a day. It was all perfect. Yeah. So now at this point, everything on the show is either mine or somebody's that I know, which is really good.
How is your particular fan base in predominantly 4-wheel drive world? Because we know a fair amount about our space and car guys and friends with, all kinds of guys that have shows, and you hear all those different stories. But for the most part, they just like love to watch the content and buy a t-shirt. And like, that's so cool. It appears from the outside looking in, the little bit that I know about the 4-wheel drive side, I would assume there's a large majority of people that want to tell you how to do it differently than what you're doing it.
A little bit. I mean, the beauty of, I guess, the benefit of myself is the fact that the fact now that it's like 23 years of doing it, most people are pretty cool about it. The difference, I think, between like the off-road world and the hot rod world is at the end of the day, in the off-road world, it's how it works is the most important part. It doesn't if it looks good, that's also cool. Mm-hmm. But when we roll in somewhere, like we just got back from Johnson Valley doing King of the Hammers, right? And there's going to be some dude there with a $5,000 clapped out Toyota that looks like a beer can sitting on a frame rail. And he's going to run a trail that the $250,000 Ultra 4 car is running. And if he clears it, one-shots it, he's the hero, and the guy with the $250,000 car is a joke, right? It's like, it's not so much about, like that Triton Engineering, that car is beautiful. It's a $500,000 car if you include all the spares and you've prepped and you're racing, right? And this Toyota just made you look like a fool. And that's the most important part in off-road. It's like, how well does it work? Not how well does it look, kind of thing, which is fun. It's kind of cool that way. But as for the fan base, I mean, I think a lot of the guys are more, like, I think they respect it when you're out of the box thinking, and they like to see stuff get built. But a lot of them, it's also just the labor behind it, right? Like a lot of these trucks, the reason that $500,000 trophy truck is $500,000 is not that it has $500,000 worth of parts in it. It's got $400,000 worth of labor, right? And so I think they respect the fact that you're just cutting stuff up and welding it together. They just like seeing that kind of stuff. If you ask my wife, I have a lot of like female fans, because she'll say, "Oh, you're at these shows, all these girls must come up and talk all the time." I'm like, no, it's always like 40-year-old dudes who just want to come up and
similar to the
we just get a little older than me. We're more like the 50, 60-year-old dudes.
Yeah. I just was wondering because in your world there's like different approaches to kind of doing the same thing. And like you said, it's all about how it works.
And it's also changed so much. I mean, you know, if you look at Score Desert Racing, so if you look at a trophy truck, that's been a pretty standard build, like a Tisco or a Herbst or one of those. That's like 20 years. These guys have been playing with about the same technology. When you get into hardcore rock sports like Ultra 4 and all that kind of stuff, that's new. I mean, our biggest race is King of the Hammers. That's only been around 18 years. And even 10 years ago, you were lucky to finish 100 miles in 8 hours. Now we're doing 300 miles in 6 hours. And so it's just, and you know, we went from doing like 30 miles an hour in the desert and being able to climb over rocks to do, you know, we can do a $120 across the desert floor and then climb over rocks the size of this table. This table's nothing really for a rock, but like the size of a Volkswagen, you're hitting trails that are like nasty junk.
What's the weakest link right now in that?
It's all drivetrain related. So it's actually, well, I shouldn't say that. It's right now we're playing a game where it's like the technology's going so far that that's become our weak link, because you've got these cars, like you got a Triton Engineering IFS IRS car with 74 weld portals front and back with Fox live valve that's feeding through a Motec that's basically measuring the suspension travel. So when you burn into a corner at like 80 miles an hour into a berm, normally in an IFS car or an off-road car, the suspension's set up so soft you can climb over rocks. And then when we start going fast, when you turn into that berm and you cut it, the body roll is so excessive that the left rear tire used to just pick up around the corner. You just had to bicycle it and ride it around. Well, now with live valve tech and the shocks, they'll measure your speed, steering axis input, roll center, and brake pressure, and they'll stiffen up that right front corner so you can make that corner fast. The problem with that is when one thing goes wrong,
It all goes wrong.
the car's done. I mean, because it's like that $5 gear or sensor in the portal that goes bad. It's like, I have to stop the race now or I burn up $100,000 gearbox. And so that's kind of our weak link right now. You could say it's gear sets and drive shafts and all that kind of stuff, but 90% of it is the tech is so far advanced. These guys are now bowing out of the race because they don't want to wreck $100,000 part.
Is tech failures mainly sensors?
It's sensor
from the environment.
It's either sensors or just damage, because I mean, Ultra 4 racing, we just had our big race just happened February. So our leader was going in a trail that's pretty nasty and he's coming up the ledge and he comes around a rock on the left. He gets hung up, bellied out. The second place car comes up. If that car is bellied out, you are allowed to drive over the car. And so he drives up, gets the front end buried in the car. The other driver is out of the car, so it's safe. He's trying to winch because he's running single seat versus a two-seater. He starts to drive over the car, falls in, and now they're basically linked at the front end. So you've got $10,000 worth of shocks wrapped around the front bumper of another car. But they both finished. They eventually got them drug out, winched out, pulled around. And while they were doing that, two other cars drove over them to end up winning the race. So it's
way cooler than a hot rod event.
It's the only problem with Ultra 4 is you literally live in the desert for a week. So it's, we're in Johnson Valley. So they go into Johnson Valley, which is right beside 29 Palms, Death Valley. It's nowhere. The closest light bulb is 30 minutes away. And they build a city in that desert. And so they go in, they lay cable. We do a whole live show from the lake bed. It's great. But they build the infrastructure for that town in there. But you're literally living there with 100,000. It's like Burning Man. It's 100,000 people living in the desert. So there's very little fresh water, not a lot of sewer treatment. Like it's nasty. It's my wife came one year and then she was like, no, I'm not. I'll be in Palm Springs. She went back to Palm Springs. She smartened up. She's back in Palm Springs.
We should check it out.
It would be fun.
Yeah, it's a cool spot. I always tell everyone, like I'm fortunate because in my life I've gotten to do a lot of cool shit, and I always say there's certain bucket list things, right? Like everyone should go to SEMA once. Once it becomes a job, SEMA's no fun anymore. But I think for car guys, it's still super cool to go. I think everyone should go to SEMA. Everyone should go to a drag racing event. Everyone should go to a super high end car show. Everyone should go to Barrett, and everyone should go to like either a desert race. The desert races are hard because you can't really watch them. But King of the Hammers, it's a 3-lap, 300-mile race, and you can get there, and it's literally just a party, and it's a fun time. Yeah, everyone should go to King of the Hammers once.
Sounds like a good time. Whole sewer thing I don't know about, but
well, you can get I tell everyone if it's your first time, don't stay on the lake bed. You can stay in Yucca Valley and drive in. So you can stay in Yucca Valley, drive in every morning. It's about a 35, 40-minute drive from Yucca. And you're down in, it takes you about 35 minutes. You're there, go watch the race, go back to Yucca, spend the night. Yeah, no, it's a fun time. It's definitely worth the trip.
It just finished up, right?
Yeah, it's once a year. So they have a race series too. Ultra 4 is a series, but nobody pays attention to the series. So it's like, imagine NASCAR if all you ever knew about NASCAR was who won the Daytona 500. Because that's what King of the Hammers is.
All that matters.
Yeah, King of the Hammers. Like, I couldn't tell you who won all the championships, but I could tell you every single King of the Hammers king. We call them the king. That's what because they're the king for the year.
SEMA. You'd mentioned SEMA. That's been a job for you for quite some time.
Yeah, 20 years. Yeah, my favorite. It was funny when ESOB started going to SEMA. I went and worked their booth. And I would be in a stool teaching people how to TIG weld all day. And I had a contract that had to be there like 2 hours, but I would just stay all day. And they would say, you only have to be here for 2 hours. You can go. And I'm like, I don't know. I have a stool. I don't have to go anywhere.
It's right here in the
It's actually a
well.
pretty good gig. Man.
Yeah. The funny thing about SEMA was when they launched the Rebel welder, which was their first sort of do-it-yourself introductory welder line that we helped design and create for them, is we went to SEMA and everyone walked up at SEMA and they're like, I want a TIG weld. And nobody knew how to TIG weld. So you're spending all week we had a guy in the back just sharpening tungsten. That was his whole job all week, just turning tungsten all day long. So then after that was FabTech in Chicago. And it was literally the week after. So I flew from Vegas to Chicago and I stopped at home to see my wife for a day. And she asked how SEMA was. And I told her, I was like, oh man, it was just tungsten dipping constantly. That's all it was all day. And she said, well, do you think Chicago will be the same? And I'm like, no, there's no way. Cause these are all professional. No, it was the exact same. All these guys came in, they're just swimming tungsten across stainless all day.
Get anybody
long.
that lights himself up, gives them a good.
You'll get somebody who comes, especially more at SEMA, right? Because it'll be like someone will come in with like a crop top, belly top. Like it's like, some girl will come in, she's like, I want to weld. And you'll get her all done up in like the whole thing. She'll get the jacket and the gloves, but sure enough, she leans right in on the table and gets that one chunk of arm leaning on there. And whew, yeah, that'll wake
We
you up.
used to do that. There was just some good guy show years ago. Did it with Berkshire, where he'd go over to the Miller booth and just could pretend like he had no fucking clue how to TIG weld. He'd go over there and start like messing with the thing and like, and then just
lay it. How many co-hosts have you had?
Let me think. Probably about 3 or 4, I think, over the years. Yeah. It's been, we've always had good co-hosts. I've never been against having a co-host. When we started to do Motor Trend, they said we didn't want to do a co-host. They said we've been doing it long enough. I like having a co-host around. I think it makes the show a little bit easier to do, to be honest with you. But yeah, so we started with Jesse years ago, and then did a guy by the name of Chris, and then we had, I guess that's it. Jesse and Chris. That'd be about it. 2 of them. Yeah, we've had a couple when we were part of Power Block. We had a couple kind of float in and out because we had guys who would they'd bring them in and they'd be trying them out for maybe one of their shows, and so they'd kind of just float them into our studio just for like a day or two, and we would shoot a little bit with them. That stuff never made air. We'd just see how it looked on camera, send it to the network. The network would sign off on it or not, and then we'd move them down the road to the next show, kind of thing. So
when you're looking at those co-hosts and thinking about like how that's all going to work out, are you like idolizing Chuck and Joe from Horsepower / Hot Rod TV?
Yeah.
Is that like the holy grail?
So
That's like Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, exactly. No, well, the funny thing is when they launched Hot Rod TV, so Chuck was given the job because he was president of the Chevelle Club of North America. So
of course
he was your car.
Looks like
So he was your car guy, chops, right? Joe Elmore, he couldn't fix a car if you gave him every tool and that man is not a car. He's a TV guy. He's absolutely not a car guy. And he appreciates them, understands them, but does not touch a car. That was it. And originally Mike Galley, who eventually moved into that show, he was Joe's hands. So like when Joe would get on there, he had the voice, he had the TV chops, he had all that kind of stuff. But anytime it came to work on something, it was just Galley's hands would just slide.
He'd just come around him.
Yeah, he just cut and just have him use. He would be the guy working on it, right? So I
never knew that.
when I was on the show, and then after about the first couple of years when the show was doing well, and then Stacy left to go do his own deal, they started looking for new hosts for the truck show. And at that point in time, Joe and I had a real good working relationship. And so Joe said to me, he said, find me a co-host for this show, for this truck show. And I said, okay. And I went in to the talent pool that we had, and I just went into the person who was in charge of that. Diane was her name. And I said, give me the spreadsheet. I said, can you search that spreadsheet by any word at all? And she said, yeah, we can. I said, give me everyone who's ASC certified. That's all I care about. And it took the page from like 5,000 people down to like 200 people. And the second guy I called answered the phone, and that was Ryan Shand, and he got the job. Because at the end, the thing about the Power Block stuff was like, that was less about TV chops, because the Joe Saint, his rule was, if you're going to go on TV and you're going to say, I rebuilt this transmission, you have to be the dude who rebuilt the transmission. Because he said that his feeling was the viewer could tell if you were full of shit. And so that was always his game. And we had some guys. We had the best one was we had a guy apply to be on the Muscle Car TV show, and he flew in, and he was a painter. And I don't know how it got through all the producers, but I went back afterwards and watched his video, and he like mispronounced every single piece of paint equipment that he was talking about. Like he called it a devil bus spray gun. And like, it was just a mess. Right. And I was like,
the infamous.
Yeah. And
is he Canadian?
Yeah. At first, that's what I thought. I was like, maybe he's from Canada. But the crazy thing is so they bring the guy in, they shoot with him, they record, they get all of it done on tape. It's all fine and dandy. We're getting ready to send to the network. And then we find out he's not even the dude that was supposed to be there. The guy that was supposed to be there got cold feet. This was his buddy, looked like him, got on the plane with his driver's license. He just wanted a free trip to Nashville to see what the show was all about. And he was just like going to try to fake it till they make it all the way through.
Awesome. Right? That's a bold move.
He's like, I figured maybe it might work out. You never know, man. It was just like,
what did he come clean at the end on that?
We just sent him home, just packed him up and sent him home.
Did he think about like if he got to the point of having to paint something?
The best part was some of the producers were asking about that, and he was like, well, I'll normally just use rattle cans, and everyone's like, what? I thought this guy was like a painter, you know? But yeah, but it's crazy because we've had guys who like we get all the way through to the end. The one of the funny network stories was because you'll get TV is probably the only job in the world where like you can like literally sit down and like say, I want a Hispanic female, this age, this weight.
You can racially profile.
Absolutely. And it's still okay. Like it's considered all right. And so Spike came in at the time and we were trying to cast a show and they said, no, we want they gave us the spiels, African American, like they gave us the whole rundown. Right. And we're like, no problem. Brought a dude over from Hawaii. We brought this other guy in. It was a muscle car guy. He was a former NFL player, or not NFL. I think he played CFL for a while. And then we had this other guy who somehow snuck through, and he looked like Mr. Clean, like bald head, no eyebrows. Like you couldn't get any whiter than this dude, right? So we packaged up all the tapes and sent it to the network. And sure enough, the network was like, "No, we like that last guy, the white guy." We're like, "That's not, you asked us specifically."
Polar opposite of exactly what you asked.
White guy with no features.
Yeah, that's right. The white guy with no eyebrows who tucks his pants into his combat boots. That's who we want. And so we're just like, we're done with this. You don't know what you want. We're gonna pick our own people from this point going forward.
Is there any guys, girls, anybody that have come through there for tryouts, auditions, stuff that didn't make it on TV that you know are out there now, like prominent, that you're like,
no, I don't know. I don't think anybody has ever made it. The thing now is like, there's so many of them. Like the YouTube has brought thing about YouTube is there's so many people out there right now, right? It used to be hard to find people. Now we just go on YouTube and start digging deep for people, which is easy to find.
You ever worked with Bad Chad?
I've never worked with him, but I will watch his show because his Canadian accent just kills me, and I'll love it.
Start something. Trying to get me beat up.
When I watch that show, I will watch that show. Well, I used to watch that show when it was on, but I know exactly how that show played out because I know how it worked. It's like that he was such a character. It wouldn't have mattered if he had a cooking show or it didn't matter. That dude was going to be on TV. Like no questions asked. Just, he was such a character and a weird guy and fun story. And like, yeah, that guy's going to be on TV.
Wow.
Yeah. Cause he just fit a mold that was like, yeah, that's worth watching. Because at the end of the day, like the reality is if you're a network and you're planning a TV show, like number one, the automotive, it's so small, it's tiny, right? So when you're planning a show like a Bad Chat or something like that, or a Street Outlaws, you don't care about the car people who watch because they're going to watch no matter what, right? Like they're going to watch and either love it or hate it.
Just because you're giving them something car.
Yeah. You basically want to pull in the 90 Day Fiance viewer. That's what you're after, which is the number one show in television, by the way. That's a Super Bowl every weekend.
Are you serious?
I swear to God.
You're not the only one.
Yeah. It is.
That watches.
Yeah, 90 Day Fiance is the number.
I've never seen it. What is that? A TLC thing?
Yeah, that's that is the most watched television show on the planet. It's literally a Super Bowl every week where the viewership.
I thought it was Love After
see it.
Lockup. That's a show. You ever watch that?
I know, I've not.
Oh, that's a fucking train wreck every minute.
What was it? The 60 Days In? You seen that one?
Yeah, seen
Those
the-
were good. Yeah, those were good.
Those are the
Yeah.
ones I watch, like the world's most dangerous prisons.
Yeah.
I like that guy.
Yeah,
And then 60 Days In, those are good.
What's
You
the other
gotta
cop
give-
show that you always watch?
probably Live PD.
And now it's On Patrol.
On Patrol Live.
They had to change it.
What I love about being in TV for as long as I have is it's funny because you just learn the game, right? It's like, and Street Outlaws is a perfect example, right? Like Street Outlaws, that was some production company went out, found those guys, was like, we're gonna make a show with these guys, and they took it to Discovery, and Discovery's like, it's not gonna. We'll see what happens. And they gave them like a 6-episode run, and I ran into those guys at SEMA, very first year. I ran into Sean and Big Chief, and I saw them and I was like, dude, I told myself I love the show, and they thought I was busting their chops. And he's like, are you messing with me? He goes, because everyone here hates us because we're street racers and they were glorifying this illegal. And I was like, dude, I know you're not really street racing. You have lights and a boom. Like, it's obvious it's not really a street race. Like, I mean, anyone who has and understands anything about television, like, surprised they wreck a car and there's an ambulance right there.
Right.
Like, that's planned, right? So, but as soon as that show hit, you know that somebody in an office was somewhere literally just said, give me as many of those as you can.
Yeah, one
and
all
it
back.
was just spin-off central. And that's exactly how it works. That's all that's when that happens, that's just how that game is played.
What spinoffs were there of Street Outlaws?
All the
There's
no prep cream
everything. No
stuff
prep
and
Pring, there's No Prep Kings, there's
Outlaw,
Fastest
I mean,
in America. There's
with Asian and Farm
Yeah.
Truck had their
Yeah.
own show, and
oh yeah, you can make an
all
entire network out of just just the Street Outlaw shows that have been
I
played.
forget how many there's been.
yeah, there's been a lot of them.
And it's the same with 90 Day Fiance. 90 Day Fiance was some crazy guy's idea. They shot that thing and it took off. And now you've got 90 Day Fiance. You've got the 15 spinoffs that come out after that. And that's just how they play that.
You got to at least give it like 1 or 2 episodes of the Love After Lockup, because
What is
so the
dude
whole
gets
this
out
is,
of prison?
This is the whole premise, though. It's either a guy or girl are in prison, right? And the other half is outside of prison, right? And they've fallen in love. But the show starts basically
They've
right
fallen
when
in love
whilst one is
Okay.
incarcerated,
Gotcha.
right? And back and forth. They've been sending money back and forth, and we're doing this. Well, it starts when the one is getting
out of prison.
Right?
Oh, I gotta watch this.
And
This
it's
is
like-
gonna be awesome.
So we're gonna live happily ever after. Oh, baby, for sure.
He
But tonight,
kicks the
I got
fucking
a
crap out
couple
of
of things I've got to handle, and all the stuff that's going on, and like both ways. Like you'll see like a guy that's on the straight and narrow fall in love with this girl, right? And he's gone through he's done 2 second mortgages. He's like spent $180,000.
and she's got a meth lab in the attic or something.
And it's showing her like the camera's going. She's like on her 4th date that night, and then she's telling him that she's too tired to come over, and then he's going and buy. It's fucking horrible. It's the most cringe shit because you're feeling so bad for these people. But anyway, it's worth a shot. It's fucking horrible.
Is that a
but-
Netflix thing or what is
no,
it?
it's like a TLC. It's a network thing.
Oh, it's
Or True
definitely
TV, whatever.
a TLC. Yeah, that's absolutely
The
for
On
sure.
Patrol Live thing is a fucking must-watch guilty pleasure for me. It's me and my wife's deal. Like Saturday
That's your
night,
thing, right?
We tape them and then watch them late, like to go to bed. But it's like we've got like full-blown games. Like you're watching.
Drinking game.
It's drinking and
Yeah.
like somebody's pulled over, she'll look and she's like, "What's your gas?" I'm like, "No license, suspended twice," and then you go through something, pull over, you got your license? Not on me. Is it suspended? Yeah. how many of those have you had? 3, and let me get your insurance. I don't have any insurance. Like, fuck yeah. See? And it's just over and over. It's like live.
Cops level of like the chases. And
oh yeah. Because they're doing like
it's all in what north central Florida.
No, they do 6 different departments throughout the country, but it's all live. So it's coming from like one central station.
Probably also the body cam and footage and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
and they've got camera crews with all these people.
Yeah,
so they've got like screens going up, and anytime something's happening, boom, they're going there, like middle of a chase, middle of this, and then it'll pop out to different stuff. It's
I think it's really
cool.
live.
Oh, it is.
Oh yeah, no, it is. Yeah, it's the same. The live PD was live. You could tell that it was live.
Yeah, it's the same show, Live PD, but when they got canceled,
this was the second version of it.
Yeah, they changed the.
See, I love 90 Day Fiance because whoever casts that, I think, should win like an Emmy award because it's like it's so well done. It's like when they because that could have gone so straight. It could have just been like, oh, I met this person on vacation, I fell in love, and then we're gonna get married. But I mean, you got to dig deep to find like the Mormon kid who met the Russian stripper while on a trip in like that's you got to find that.
He was on Rumspringa.
And then the best thing is, and then you got to convince them to be on the show. That's the other part. Right? It's like
a lot of work.
Yeah, that's like whoever did that, and then you find the the mail order bride, and like it's just whoever plans that out. It's just so well because it's like the perfectly crafted cast where you watch every week and you're just like. This is good because it's just so perfect. It's like, oh, she's going to love me so much. She's going to love living in Arkansas. She came out of Moscow. She was a cage dancer in Moscow, but she's going to love living with me and my parents in Arkansas. It just never ends well. It's so good.
You should try producing one of those. Next time you're at FabTech, just snag one of those Amish dudes with the bag phone and the homemade jeans and the scarecrow hair.
Set
them up, man.
So I have a fab table in my shop, and I was a guy saw me at FabTech and he said, I want to put a fab table in your shop. And I was like, that's fine. And so we started to talk about doing some stuff and making some content for him. And then, but he told me, he said, just so you know, we're an Amish owned company. And so but what blew my mind was this is like a multi-million-dollar corporation that builds. What that company did was their number one product was you have all these modern farm equipment, tractor implements that you can't use as an Amish farmer because you can't have a tractor. And so they build these adapters to like pull like these 20-foot wide disc machines with a standalone PTO with 4 horse in front of it. And they were building machines so big, they needed fab tables. And they started building fab tables. And now that's their number one business is building these fab tables. And it's just, it's
That's a crazy species there.
Yeah.
Do you see them with the bag phones there?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, it's like, what if you're using the technology, just get a fucking iPhone or an Android. That's probably more in the Android world.
There's gotta be some justification of
for the bag. It's still a phone.
Like how long ago it was invented. It's like, it's a 20-year moratorium. That's an old technology.
What blows my mind is when you see them out on a job site, like using full, but that's okay because we got a generator.
Yep.
We're making our own power. So we've got the full DeWalt, we got everything we need, and but this same thing. This is a giant factory. It's literally got Cummins generators stacked outside. They're off the grid 100%. They're just burning diesel.
I love the fucking badass stereo systems in the buggies.
Yeah,
on the thing. Like 4 subs, CD player, and all that in the buggy. But like those horses pulling me.
Hey, that was another good show. The
Amish
Mafia with Lebanon Levi.
Now that one was fake.
Yeah.
My favorite when we were teenagers, we all had sport bikes and we were down and we were like riding down. We were headed down to Daytona one March, and we stopped at a Motel 6 and we pulled out a paper map because this is like the 90s, right? And my buddy's planning out the route the next day, and he looks and he sees Intercourse, Pennsylvania, which is right down the road from Blue Balls, which is right down the road from Virginville. And he's like, oh, we got to swing through here. And we rolled through there at like 2 a.m. on the bikes. And I had a Kawasaki in Canada. It was a ZX7, but a ZX7.
Yeah.
And I had like the green neon and the whole Power Rangers suit and everything. And we rolled into that town at like 2 a.m. and we were like, it was like aliens coming. Like it was, that town was black. Like there wasn't a street light in that whole town. And we're like taking pictures by the side and just being stupid, right? We're just standing there, just ripping through town. Because people probably thought it was like the end of the world with us coming through there. It was hilarious.
Whatever happened to the original Two Guys Garage? Wasn't that was down in Florida, wasn't it?
That was shot down in Florida. That was, I think, so.
Sam
It was Sam Mamela. He's still in the game. He's
he?
still doing a show. Yeah, so Sam's still doing a show. That was part of the so Scripps Network was remember the DIY network?
Yeah.
So the DIY network. So there was a point in time when there was like a whole bunch of networks, right? And now there's like really 3, right? So Scripps was based out of Knoxville, and Scripps did a lot of DIY stuff. And that was part of that pack, that whole show, that whole group was at Scripps Network. And when they got bought out by somebody, and it became, I think it is still the DIY network, but it's part of HGTV, which is part of Discovery now. When HGTV went and bought it, they killed all their automotive stuff. And it was, the reasoning why was they just said, oh, it's safety reason. We can't have people working on their cars. It's just not safe. And I'm like, but you got people like cutting out load bearing walls in their house. Like that's acceptable. But so that was, but he's still doing,
it was Sam and who was
Sam and Dave.
Didn't that start as Shade Tree Mechanic?
Shade Tree Mechanic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it changed names like 3 or 4 times. I've been through that game too. I'm on like my 4th show name for the same show. It's all network shenanigans, right?
I'm trying to picture the other dude, because I remember the Sam guy.
Yeah, Dave was like a real big dude. Like he was the behind the scenes story is those two hated each other. Like legit hated each other. Like camera stop, like walk away, did not talk to each other, like despised each other. Yeah.
And that brings up a good topic. What are like the best like scandals behind the scenes? Was there like were 2 dudes like, I mean, maybe a couple gay dudes getting like a little nasty, or was there like this dude with this chick, or this guy beat this guy up, or like I'm just thinking.
Yeah, I can't
see that.
I can't think of any like crazy scandals like that because we're so car world related, right? But I mean, probably the craziest scandal I know of is we did like a whole thing with remember WowTech? We did a whole thing with WowTech. We went and shot a whole bunch of stuff at WowTech. And then literally got back and it's in the edit bay and they're editing it. And then we found out that like one of the kids was picked up for 2nd-degree murder. And so we had to like go in and like strip all the footage out of that type of stuff. Yeah. So that's probably the only real scandalous thing I can think of. Yeah. We're not as sexy as like real television, you know, it's car guy TV. It's like, it's more like so-and-so didn't know the difference between a LS and an small block Chevy, kind of ha ha ha.
In the automotive TV show star space, who's the one that you can't stand the most?
Man, can't stand.
Like enough that you'd be willing to air that.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of that.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah, I don't think
y'all get along with everybody.
Yeah, I think I get along with almost everybody. I don't think anyone's ever rubbed me the wrong way. Really? To be honest with you. Well, so the only one that I think that probably that didn't get along with me was Lou Santiago. I don't know if you remember Lou. Yeah. So Lou and then Jared, Jared who now works. I think he went back to Troy's. I think he went
back to Troy's.
Well, he went to Florida for a little while, and then I think he quit that gig. I think he's back at Troy's. I think, but yeah, they started at RTM. We started that show Muscle Car with Lou. And Lou's co-host was supposed to be the guy who didn't show up to the interview and was the paint guy. So Lou started that show by himself. And so we went in and I prepped the script. My producer moved over from the 4-wheel drive show to help Lou launch that show. And we did that Challenger build out of that Too Fast, Too Furious car build. Anyway, so Lou was in there and we were setting up. And I remember having meetings with like Lou and Jared, and they were like hell bent on like, we can do anything. You know, and I just kept telling them, I'm like, guys, I've been doing this for a long time. Like, don't set yourself up. Don't burn out. I mean, we made 23 episodes a year at that point in time.
Shit.
And I would say to them, like, you can burn out hard in this game. And so I'd be working the shop and then 5 o'clock come, we'd be headed home. And they came out one day and they're like, we're Muscle Car. We don't mess around. We work all day, all night. That's how we play it. And I'm like, dude, and then literally 6 months later, Jared was packing his bags and going home and he was done and he was just burned out. And it happens, man. You can burn out easy in this game.
Oh, yeah.
How the hell did Foose stick with it? I mean, talk about burning out. I mean, the hours on that show. Yeah.
Fuck.
He's just a weird dude when it comes to that kind of stuff. Like, I love Chip, but he'll just put in the time. It's crazy. I think probably the early days of overhauling, you had so many people in that game, right? Like, there were like 50 people in those build teams. And so I think that helped him, but he's just a guy who will just work constantly, then just never turn it off, which is, I don't know how he does it. Yeah. It's just kind of crazy, but yeah, he just doesn't. And I mean, I love working. I'll work, 20 hours a day in the shop. It's no problem for me, but yeah, he'll do it 7 days a week, which is crazy.
It's fucking nuts. First car you ever had?
My first car is pretty well documented. It's a 1975 Volkswagen Beetle. Still have it.
Still have it?
When I got married, my wife found it and bought it for me.
Oh.
Yep.
Found the actual Beetle?
Found half of it. So when I bought the car when I was 16,
top or the bottom?
When I bought the car when I was 16, it was pretty rough shape, and I drove it for most of my high school life. And then I sold it to get my first Jeep. And then when I sold it, my buddy he had just bought a Volkswagen. He took half my car and basically built his car. And then when I got married, my wife, I told a story about my car, because without that car, I wouldn't be a mechanic, because that car was a piece of shit. And that car, I was not from a mechanic family. I was from a white collar, high school principals, high school superintendents. This was not my life. And, but when I bought that car, I figured out I could work on cars, and I liked it, and it was fun. So that's how I started down the road of being a mechanic. And so I told her that story. And so she went and found the car, bought it back. When we came back from our honeymoon, it was like in the driveway. It was literally a shell of a car and like 13 milk crates. But yeah, so I got the car back. So it's good. Still have it.
That's fucking cool.
Yeah, I love it. It's great. It's great to have.
Does your wife work?
Yeah, she's educator. She's still teaching.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You got any plans for that thing?
It's like a Cal Custom, so it's like slammed on air. It's hammered down hard. When my son was 16, I had him rebuild the motor for it. We thought about giving it to him for his first car, but then we knew that like nowadays, if you turn 16, you wreck your first car all the time. So instead, we put him in a diesel Jetta that got 55 miles per gallon.
Did he wreck it?
It got wrecked, but it wasn't his fault. So he was at a stoplight.
Is that his story?
Yeah. Well, we were there when we saw it. We didn't see it happen, but he called us. But he was sitting at a stoplight, and he said he looked in the rearview mirror and he just saw someone staring at their phone, like coming at him at 40 miles an hour. Oh. And he'd been enough of the buggies that he knew, like, so he put his head on the headrest and just grabbed onto the seatbelt and held on. But the car I'd already hammered it for him pretty good because he wanted it low. So when they hit, they went above the bumper and just crushed the whole back of the car.
Shit.
So he didn't get hurt, but the car was wrote. And so then, that rode off that car. And so I was kind of glad that he wasn't driving the bug at that point. But yeah, so he wrecked it. Yeah, they all wrecked their first cars. Yeah. Yeah. But it lived on. That engine's now in a Suzuki that's rock crawling over rocks all the time. So it did all right.
Good repurposing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think there should be an Instagram page for the police department where they post like the website or the search for every one of those accidents, like what that person was looking at, typing.
Oh yeah,
what was so fucking important?
Yeah. Kind of like the TSA Instagram page. You ever looked at that?
Yeah. No,
they have an Instagram page where they'll show
how many guns and knives a day.
Yeah.
Who would fucking take a knife through there?
Dude, it happens all the time.
Oh, yeah. So I did it 2 weeks ago.
I went through by mistake.
It happens. See, it happens.
Yeah, after COVID, I was like, I'd moved my son out of he was in Arizona. That's where he went to school, and he moved him from apartment to apartment. And he just, for some reason, he had all these knives, and I just took half of them and threw them in my backpack and never even thought of it. And then it was after COVID, and I'm flying, and I'm like on the plane, and they grab my bag. And they pull it aside, and the guy digs in, and I didn't even realize they're in there. I didn't even think he pulls out like 5 knives, and I'm just like, oh, that's not good. And then what's worse was one of them was like almost like a switchblade, right? Yeah. And he's like, and so then he starts digging for his supervisor. Luckily, the supervisor comes out and he goes, "Hey, Ian, how's the show going?" And I'm like, "It's going great, man." And he goes, "Is this a prohibited weapon?" He goes, "Just throw it away." And he goes, "Go ahead, Ian. You can go." I was like, "Thank you. Forgot those were in there."
Nice.
So yeah,
pull that celebrity card.
Yeah, I only ever pulled it one time, and that was to get a seat in a race car. So I was like, "I'm on TV. You should give me a spot." And they gave me a spot in a desert racing truck to go do the 1,000. So it was good.
Fuck, sweet.
Badass.
Hey everybody, Josh here from Oil and Whiskey. We're excited to announce that IRONCLAD is launching a new IRONCLAD original, Borderland, with host Vincent Rocco Vargas. Vince, a Hollywood actor, former Army Ranger, and Border Patrol Special Operations veteran, offers a distinct viewpoint on border-related issues as the grandson of a Mexican immigrant. Take a look at this teaser for the upcoming IRONCLAD original, Borderland. It's hitting all major platforms on February 22nd. You don't want to miss it.
On any given day, there can be more than 10,000 apprehensions on America's southern border. Some have crossed snake-infested jungles with their children on their backs to escape gang violence and to find a better life for their families in pursuit of the American dream. Some, well, we don't know where they're coming from or what they want. My name is Vincent Rocco Vargas. I'm a United States Army combat veteran and a former member of Border Patrol's Search, Trauma, and Rescue Unit. On the new IRONCLAD original, Borderland, each week I talk to people to better understand the causes and effects of the border crisis. We cut through the partisan talking points. We're not interested in perpetuating fear. We're interested in seeking truth, hearing what's really going on America's borderland. Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube at This Is IRONCLAD.
You mentioned something about you sold it to get a Jeep. You're a Jeep guy.
I am a self-proclaimed Jeep guy. Yeah. I my first off-roady car was an 85 CJ7. And ever since then, I've been a Jeep guy. Yeah.
The Jeep guys, we've often talked about this. The Jeep crowd is a different crowd. You have like...
Well, there's two.
Yes.
Oh, there's three or four.
Yeah, there is 3 or 4.
So, and you can scale it by when so the thing you need to understand is the Jeep itself, right? So in 2007, the Jeep changed.
Yeah.
So when the JK came out, my best JK story is we had a JK on the set from Jeep before anybody else had seen it. And an engineer from Ford came in because we were doing some stuff with a Mustang and they saw it and they started just climbing all over it. And the guy from Ford was like, because the rumor was that the JK, it was the end of the removable doors and it was the end of the fold down windshield. That was the rumor inside the Jeep world. And the Ford guy came in and he saw the doors were removable and he was so pissed because he was like, there's no, if we built a vehicle with removable doors, there's no way they would let us sell it. Like, this is so bullshit. He was so pissed about it. And we're just like, well, they built it. So, but anyway, so that's, yeah. So in 07, that's when the Jeep market completely flipped. So the numbers are from the JK, which is 07 to, I think it's 18. They sold more JKs than every other model of Jeep combined in the first 3 years. So there's more, we call them the minivan Jeep because it's got a minivan motor and it's a 4-door and it's a little V6. And they sold more of those in 3 years than like 100 years of Jeeps in 3 years. Yeah. And it also flipped the demographic. Jeep owners, Jeep owners became, new Jeep owners were 90% women out of the gate. So the JK was 90% brand new Jeep owners were women. Used Jeep owners were still 90% men. But yeah, the market absolutely flipped on its head.
Well, help us understand. I mean, what is it that you don't understand? You know what I'm saying? It's a Jeep thing, right?
Well played.
So you don't know what you don't know. Okay. Yeah. So there's there are markets for the Jeep are you've got hardcore off-road Jeep. So that's your like legit. That's what I consider myself.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, I want a Jeep that I want to be able to take it off road. I prefer an older Jeep. Like my newest Jeep that I own is a 2008. That's the newest Jeep I've got. Everything else is older than that. Then you've got what I call the Harley Jeep owners. So that's the guys who used to own a Harley. They've aged out of the Harley, but they still want to go to parking lot shows. So they bought a Jeep. And the Jeep is the second most accessorized vehicle in the country outside of a Harley, right? It's like there's only a few logos that people get tattooed on their body, right? It's Harley, Cummins, and Jeep.
Jeep's upside down though, right?
Yeah, with the set that says, if you read this, I'm in trouble kind of thing, right? Yeah, switch me over. So then that's the other Jeep market is like the parking lot Jeep owner. And they don't care that they have 40-inch tires on a Dana 30 axle. That is not a thing. They don't care because that Jeep is probably never going to go into 4-wheel drive. That's that whole market. And then, so those are basically your two players in the game. The two big players are the hardcore off-road people, and then everyone else is just, now as the Jeeps age out, so the JKs are aging out, they're cheap now. You can get a JK for $4,000. Now it's prime suspect to cut up.
But the hardcore Jeep guy, right? When they do full builds, right? And they're doing, I mean, all kinds of axle shit, big ass wheel. For the most part, what I see is they've had that Jeep for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's not like they go buy a project, throw a shit ton of money on it, do a chassis, do, all this cool shit, build it, have a little fun with it, and then move on to the next thing. It's like it's a progression over time, and they have that Jeep for...
They just keep breaking shit.
Yeah,
and
well,
it
it's because the reality in an off-road car, I tell people all the time, an off-road car is only worth the motor, the transmission, transfer case, and the axles. Everything else is just inconsequential. So the reason they hold on to that Jeep is because the value of that Jeep just plummets immediately, right? So there are guys out there, they go out, they buy that brand new JL. That's a $65,000 Jeep. They bring it, they take it to the shop, and they immediately 1-ton swap it. That's $25,000 worth of 1-tons. And then they'll do, if it's a 392, they leave it alone. They'll maybe do an Atlas in it. They'll do coilovers, bypasses. Heck, there's guys doing full, like Generate Off-Road does a full, like throw down suspension chassis replacement kit. So that's like everything you'd want, all new frame rails, everything. But it's like $30,000, then the Hemi, but you're starting with a $65,000 Jeep, and then you're throwing 90% of it away. And there's people who do that, but the reality is that money never comes back. Like it's like $1 million hot rod that goes across Barrett for $300,000, right? It's just not. And then what makes it worse is you take it out, and the first thing you do is just wipe out the quarter panel, take the door off it, wipe out the B pillar. And that's just part of it. And then that's just, so they'll just hold on to that Jeep forever because the whole goal is just to destroy it, basically.
And I like those ones that were at Barrett. What is it? America's Most Wanted? Is that what they call them?
Yeah, the America's Most Wanted stuff with the big Hemi swaps and stuff. Yeah, and those are big money. That's
big money,
yeah.
but
They're a couple $100,000, were they?
Yeah, 200.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but they look like really well done for.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it's like a capable.
Yeah,
like,
no, they were great
machine,
off-road. Yeah, because the thing is the platform's pretty much figured out at this point, right? Especially in a Jeep. It's a solid axle front, solid axle rear. At this point, everyone knows, you can get the 392, or you can Hemi swap it, or you can do a Elephant swap if you want. The guys will do it. So once you get that figured out, then those weights are done. We know what the shock package is to make that thing perform well. And then it's just shocks, suspension, and away you go, and you're good. So yeah, no, they work great. They really do. There's a limit to them in that game when you start playing that go fast desert stuff, because a solid axle car can only go so fast.
Right.
But they do well. They really do well.
Have you driven one on the street? Like because the ones they had there, I think they were like 40s on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
40s with the Elephant motor or something.
40s. Yep.
Fuck, they look cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good package. 40 is a good tire. 40 on a 17 is good package. That's kind of the number. It's a 40 on a 17 or a 42 on a 20. Those are kind of happy mediums that we play in. And then, so from that point, but yeah, the suspension geometry is figured out on it pretty solid. Just because, I mean, there's like so many guys making kits for them that they figured it out at this point.
So you could jump in that thing, hop on the highway and 80 miles an hour in it.
Yep. 80 miles an hour, one figure down the road, and then you could throw it into the rocks all day long and then just rock crawl the hell out of it and then just keep driving it.
They did look fucking cool. Little Gladiator, the little truck one or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not a Jeep. I don't know all the terms.
The Gladiators are hot. I personally think Jeep missed the mark hard. So when the Bronco came out and they announced, because I bought a Bronco on release day. I got sucked into the hype and then sold it before I took delivery and made money because it was like they were so short of them. Jeep missed the mark. So when Bronco was not delivering Broncos for like 2 years was your wait time, Jeep came out with this big announcement that there was like, oh, something big's coming. We all thought it was a 2-door Gladiator. That was the rumor because they had a 2-door Gladiator prototype that they'd built. They displayed it at a couple Jeep shows. We saw it. And that would have been the hot ticket.
That would have been cool.
But instead they did the 392, which was good for us also because now V8 swaps are 50 state legal. So that was our big saving grace for that. Which honestly, I think part of me is like that might have been why Jeep did that. Because we weren't doing V8 swaps in California because there was no V8 in that truck. But the minute they put the 392 in the JL, now we got 50 state legal V8 swaps.
What's the future look like for Jeep with them killing all the SRT stuff? They just came out with a 392, right? Not too many years ago.
Yeah, the 392 is a couple years old. I don't think the Jeep's going to go anywhere. I do think that we're going to see, I think you're going to see a IFS on a Jeep. I think we will in 2 years. I've talked to a couple people like deep on the inside, and they've told me that in a couple years we're going to see IFS. I think the rumor is IFS, full electric power steering, and which will change the game. But I mean, in our world, all it will be is just guys will sell kits to
just swap it to a Sonic.
Yeah. Well, we already have complete EPS delete kits, so that you can go and you can buy there's a bracket to put a pump back on the motor, get rid of the electric power steering pump, put it back to a standard full hydraulic system.
They just don't work well off road. Like if you're
that big a tire
torqued into a rock.
They just can't keep. Well, and also the problem is the way they work is they derate pressure as speed increases because they want your steering, and that doesn't work with a big tire. So that makes the Jeep all wandery and stuff. So we do the EPS delete.
Wasn't me.
Wow.
That fucking cell phone.
We're gonna have to have an intervention.
Yeah.
It's been several of these in a row.
Yeah.
You see, let me show you something. I know you're not real tech savvy.
Is that an
There's
iPhone?
a button
You need to get rid of that
on the side.
Here, open that one next.
Flip it and it goes silent.
Are you guys iPhone guys?
Yeah.
They are.
That's a shame. You should be Android guys.
Josh is an Android, yeah.
Do you know the Android?
Is better than iPhone.
Have you ever watched the videos to what makes an Android better than an iPhone? My whole family's iPhone except for me, and I'm an Android guy. And then I stumbled upon this video on YouTube, and I watched
the video,
and it was I'll send you the link to it. It's pretty good.
My whole family's iPhone too,
and it was stuff I never even thought of. Like if you open up your keypad on your Android, if you start typing in the letters instead of the numbers, it'll automatically find the contact with that same. But an iPhone will not do that. So it's like, why even have letters on the numbers at that point with your iPhone?
Is that the only thing that it does?
No, there's like 10 things.
Victory right there.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the map
I'll take
situation.
what I can get.
Maps and pictures, I'll give it that.
Yeah.
Seems like they've got it locked down on the cameras.
Oh, on the Android?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've shot shows where we have taken we bought 20 unlocked Androids, basically Samsungs.
Yeah.
And then gave them out to everybody, and then we can pull the video off that for broadcast use. It's good enough. And the thing about a cell phone is everyone knows how to use a cell phone versus if you hand someone a GoPro, half of them don't know how to use it. And so you'll say, hey, push this button, and then they push the wrong button, and you lose the footage.
GoPros are terrible.
But everyone, we ditched all our GoPros last year and went all to, we did all action cam stuff. So that is a high corn. That's an incredibly high corn. It's like 75%.
70% corn.
Yeah.
15 Riley.
Yeah, and that is that's local Leipers Fork, so that's local to us. And like I said, they make it's a super small batch stuff, but it's good. It's really really good.
Yeah, I think Leipers Fork is probably like my favorite place on earth. My buddy lives in Franklin, and we cruised over there on his little UTV and went to there's that like general store in town.
Yeah, you go to Puckett's.
Yeah.
Puckett's where Leipers Fork is neat. Have you ever been down to Wolfie's place down in Columbia? Mike Wolf's spot?
I've heard about that.
Yeah, it's I'm not a big car show guy, but like I'll go down to Cars and Coffee in Columbia, and Wolf bought that old dealership down there. So what Wolf did was he bought a chunk of downtown Columbia when it was worth nothing.
Yeah.
He put a music studio in, and then he lives in Leipers Fork. So he talked to a bunch of the country western guys and was like, why would you drive all the way up to Music Row in Nashville? Because Nashville's just terrible now for traffic.
Yeah.
He goes, drive across to Leipers Fork. You can record your music here. And then within 5 years, it's like the town's flipped. Like the Copart boys have bought a place down there. Yeah. I've talked to Chip. He's talking about coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's gone a little crazy. So, I mean, it's a great spot to be for us. I mean, it's a great little town. But yeah, it's a neat spot.
The Copart guys they got quite a little compound out there.
So I don't know if it's true or not, but I was told by somebody that they bought Alan Jackson's old house. And when I talked to somebody who's like working for them, maintaining that collection, they said that the cost to register the cars in Tennessee versus California paid for half the house.
Wow.
Which I could honestly see. Because in Tennessee, to help out with COVID, we took away all cost for car registrations. I don't know how that helped COVID, but literally that was. They said we're just going to get rid of car registration. You just have to pay
our part.
So it's like $5 to register a car in the state of Tennessee right now. So it's like apparently COVID did that for us. So that and to go margaritas. So life was pretty good.
We were out there. We went through there on a road tour. Was it Good Guys or Barrett Jackson?
Good guys.
Good guys. Yeah, it was. That's a hell of a setup. He's
Alan
got there.
Jackson built a nice house out
Yeah,
there.
it was beautiful out there. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. He just sold it all off, just packed it in. It was like, not anymore. I'm just done. Like, I don't know what happened to it, but he just sold the car collection and
Fucking chasing that neon rainbow.
it was just like Ivan Stewart did the same thing. Ivan Stewart, I went to his auction. I bought his video game machine. I got it at the shop. So,
Really?
Yeah, signed by him. So yeah, so he did the same
cool.
thing. He sold. He had because he had everything. He had all his old race suits and everything. And he just one day just I'm done with off road racing. It's not what I do anymore. And he just had this giant fire sale. Yeah, cleaned everything out.
What's he doing now?
His son started an electric bike business, and he was doing that for a while in Huntington Beach. And then he kind of came back. Toyota pushed back hard into off road recently, and so he kind of showed up as a guy for a little bit. But yeah, I don't think he's in the game anymore. I mean, he's got to be in his 80s at this point in time.
Yeah.
Wow.
That video game that's probably the #1 arcade game of all time.
Oh yeah, no, it's awesome.
I love that thing. I'm gonna have one day.
You think so?
I check them out all the time on Marketplace, and they
For
pop
like
up.
$2,500, you can have one.
Yeah, I know, but I'm like,
I was gonna say they're not much.
It's a commitment of space.
When I bought
'cause
mine, it was $500, which blew my mind. It was
it's a 4-player.
And my wife made fun of me when I bought it, and I was like, "Baby, you don't understand. I've already paid for this game
Multiple
two times over."
my mom and dad did.
Yeah. I explained to my son because now he's a grown up now, and I explained to him when I was his age. Well, not his age, but when he was younger. I would say if I wanted to play video games, I had to put quarters in my socks and ride my 10-speed to town to find a video game. That's not.
And then sometimes stand in line.
Yeah,
Wait for your turn.
Yeah, you had to put a quarter up on the top and be like, "I'm next."
Yeah.
Yeah, put that quarter up there. Yeah.
Nowadays, do that. Go to an arcade. Like my son's 12, and you'll go to an arcade like Dave and Buster's. You're dropping $150.
Oh yeah. Oh, easily.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's
What's it cost?
crazy.
Like $2 to play a game now?
Oh, at least it's all tokens
loaded
and
on a
cards.
card.
Yeah, it's like introducing you to credit cards at a young age. They give you a credit card and go wild.
They're probably
thing is you-
financing and they're carrying debt and shit for those kids over there, signing them up for a Dave and Buster's card for 20%.
Here's your mortgage. It's early casino games. Yeah.
You walk out with a nice plastic slinky and a Chinese finger trap.
That's
for
exactly
that.
what my son just got. They went. My mother-in-law just took them, and they got 2 Chinese finger traps and some candy, and spent $400.
Some good old fashioned skee ball where you could just rack up the tickets.
I was just wanted to just chuck the skee ball.
Yeah, you try to.
But it was so easy just to rack up tickets on skee ball.
Yeah.
You just sit there.
Just
Get
keep
in a
going.
rhythm.
Or you just run up and just drop when no one's looking. Just
Yeah,
run
yeah.
up the
Just
run
like
up the lane.
Or you go to the dollar store and for $3 you
Just
get
buy the tickets?
everything that you could have possibly bought.
Oh yeah, just buy the dollar store.
At 9 years old, you weren't learning how to cheat the system at that point.
Yeah, but still, it's like you're getting a Jolly Rancher for 75 tickets.
Thrill
I
of
feel
the
like
chase, man.
$12
Thrill
to
of the
get.
chase.
I feel like when we were kids, though, you can get some good shit. You can get the comb, the fucking switchblade comb, which
Yeah.
we got one up there.
Yeah.
You can't get that kind of stuff now. You get weapons. You get weapons if
You
you
get nunchucks.
Truck stop knives.
Truck stop.
Tim Strange
We
story
got
time.
Oh,
nunchucks
you
here
want
too,
Tim
don't we?
Strange story? All right, so let's see. So the one Tim Strange story I have is he's a Rockstar energy drink junkie, right?
Yeah, I know. That says a lot about him.
Yeah, and
Amongst other
so
things.
the one. So I've got 2 Tim Strange stories. So the one would be, do you know the story about him trying to finish a SEMA build and drinking 4 Rockstar energy drinks in an afternoon?
No.
So we were talking one day about energy drinks, and because I was making fun of this whole straight edge thing, but he pounds energy drinks, and I'm like, just have some coffee or some whiskey. It'd be much better for you, you know. And he said, well, you know how they have that warning on the side of the can, 2 a day or whatever it is. And he said, and he was finishing some car for SEMA, and he was pounding those things, and apparently at 4, you get violent diarrhea. And so he has a picture, or I think Carrie has a picture of him in the bathroom at his shop, sanding a fender, sitting on the toilet, trying to do what you gotta do. Gotta do what you gotta do. Yeah. And then the only other real Tim Strange story I got is, man, this
Shitty paint job.
Yeah.
You know that thing fish-eyed like crazy.
Yeah. The only other Tim Strange story I got would be just the standard Tim Strange, fucking Scrooge McDuck temper tantrum, kind of all out, just at the end of his rope, just have a meltdown.
I've never seen a meltdown.
You've never seen a Tim Strange meltdown?
No.
Oh,
Never.
Dude,
I've never even heard of a Tim
I
Strange
thought he was
meltdown.
always jolly. I never knew.
No, man. When he gets to that point where it's just like, it's literally like Scrooge McDuck, like just tearing stuff off the walls, throwing stuff across the shop. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And I've seen him do it. Like when he's building a car, if it just gets that, you can see it coming with the breaking point, right? And for the one that he was, it hurt him a lot. But he did the show with us called Search and Restore. Mm-hmm. And it was a really good show. And we kind of tried to mix it up a lot with different stuff, right? So there was supposed to be a build for every show that the rest of the power block did. So there was like a muscle car for muscle car and then a truck for trucks. And so we were building this Jeep, right? And he was trying to gap a Jeep, which you can't do. Like, it's just not going to happen, right? And he was on the front of this Jeep working. And he was trying to get the gap on the hood right. And I looked across at him and I said, Tim, I don't understand why you're even doing that. There's going to be a fucking winch in front of that thing. No one's going to see that gap. And I didn't realize it, but that just put him over the edge. And it was like sanding blocks in the air and stuff across the shop.
Full-blown temper tantrum.
That's actually Kevin Tates calls him Timmy Fits. Yeah, the old Timmy Fits. Yeah, the whole meltdown. Yep, I'd never seen it before, but like, man, yeah, he got pretty mad.
Dude, with the butyl tape and the Windex, you can't gap one of those things. You can't cut those gaps in.
I've never seen the
timber
tantrum.
Timmy tantrums. Yep.
I didn't peg him for
a
guy that loses his cool.
I peg him for somebody got pegged, but not from. Sorry, I feel we're gonna have to cut that out, obviously. But some of the stories that she's told about what she's done to him, honestly, are some of the
She's
worst
more
shit.
fucked up than he is.
I can't believe they're still fucking married.
They're you know what? Honestly, I think they're just, there's people are just made for each other. Yeah. They're just made for each other. It's kind of crazy, but yeah.
You're 100% right though. Maybe it is just the violent temper. Maybe that's the thing we've always been worried about. Like you said, the straight edge thing always leads you to believe there's a little bit worse that you're making up for.
That you're kind of pulling back from.
Like you always say, a guy that doesn't cuss, a guy that doesn't drink, obviously we do some of that way too much, right? But it leads you to believe that
there's something else there.
You're seeing everything that there is to see, right?
Yeah.
You think there's a dark
side? If you start hiding some of that stuff, like, I don't do any of that stuff.
Yeah. No, we're deep in the South. We see that a lot. That was the hardest thing about, like, there's like 3 culture shocks, right? So you move from Canada to the United States, there's like a culture shock there because it's like it's drastically different. I don't care what you say. And then you move from Canada to like the South. It's like, whoa, like a whole other world. And we've got friends who are, I remember one of the very first times we were down there, we were having like it's those friends who are like only your friends because your kids are friends. You've got those friends, right? And then it's like as soon as your kid goes to college, you never talk to that person again. Yeah.
Fuck, so glad I don't have to fucking see Nancy's face again.
Yeah. And so we had friends, like, we were having like a Thanksgiving and they were going to come over for Thanksgiving. And then like one of them got sick and they couldn't come. And so they came over. And so I just said, well, come over to the house, pick up like some of the food. You can take it home, right? And so he came over and he was there and he's like super religious, kind of like super straight laced guy. And he like pulls me into the garage and he's like, do you have any beer? And I'm like, yeah, I got beer. What you want? Of course I got beer. He goes, yeah, because he's not allowed to buy beer. So he can't buy beer in our town in case someone from the church sees him. So he has to drive like an hour out of town to buy beer. And I'm like, if you're going to drive an hour, just buy the beer. Like, I don't understand
It's
that.
almost worse.
Yeah.
Now it seems like an addiction. Like, it seems weird.
Yeah. If you're driving an hour to buy beer, like, and it's not even like, you're just buying like Corona. It's not like good beer, right?
Yeah. The hiding.
I don't understand that. Yeah. But that's, I always tell people all the time, that's like the secret to life is just being, if you're 100% honest, life is good. You know, if you can just be honest with yourself, then life will be fine.
Because you're always going to find your path so much faster by being you, because if you're just like faking it, you'll be friends with somebody for so long until you finally do let out that real thing, and they're like, "Oh my!"
Finally, say the wrong thing, right? It's like,
you said what joke about what?
Sorry, I didn't mean to say that.
Wildly offensive. Oh,
some people, it's much better to just get it out like the first time you meet them.
Yeah, that
accidentally.
That tends to happen with me.
Oh, he's got the worst. We call them smoke bombs. It's an absolute Jordan-like talent, like a gift he was born
the
with,
goat.
to first time meeting somebody for no reason whatsoever to make a comment about something so opinionated that's so deeply offensive to that person.
And you just pick that one guy.
I don't know how it happens. I don't mean to do it.
Yeah, we had a camera guy did the same thing. We went on a field shoot once, and we got sucked into this website one day at work called ugliesttattoos.com, which is just hilarious, right? And we found this tattoo it was literally like, it was called the merman reach around tattoo. So it's like two mermen reach around, and it's like a full back tat, right? It's this crazy. You could just that title alone should explain what's on that tattoo, right?
Google it.
And so but be careful.
So
don't Google it from your work. Oh, I got a work computer. Funny story for you. So anyway, so we go to this off-road event, and I told my camera guy we're meeting up with our trail guide for the day, and I said, hey, he's a youth pastor. That's all I got to say. Just watch it when we get out of the car, right? First thing he does is jump out of the car. He goes, do you like tattoos? And pulls his phone out. Like, shows his dude this tattoo. And I'm like, why would you show that to a youth? And then the youth pastor will be like, oh, that's very funny. I can see. Like, that is not like, I don't even get it. Like, why would you even show that to him?
See, I'm more of the guy that, like, first time out, I'd be like, man, I saw this dude like with a horrible tattoo. You ever see somebody with just a shitty tattoo, like a fucking mermaid or just something terrible? And then like later he would like reach forward and there would be a mermaid tattoo.
Yeah, it's always.
And then he goes home.
The most far-fetched, like, for no reason. Like,
that gets you in there.
Just a conversation about a certain color vehicle that's so rare, and who would buy that. Anybody that would buy that, it says something about them and their family, and for generations about their family and how stupid they must be. And it's the exact fucking car that the guy's driving. Like,
so like a probe.
No. Probe. I'm going to have a fucking probe. I'll have a probe before you have an Iron Man racing game.
I don't think so.
They're both $2,500.
Yeah, that's true.
You could probably get a package deal for $2,500.
They both pretty much perform the same.
You find that correct maroon 96.
There's one on Marketplace.
Pro GT right now. I'm telling you,
I think you should bring back this whole like Pro Street thing's coming back.
Yeah.
I think you should. Do you remember the Pro Street Beretta?
Oh no! There's been one for sale.
I remember
Scott Sullivan.
I was in love with that thing when I was a teenager, and that was like all the whole world revolved around that Pro Street Beretta, right? And I think you should bring back do a Pro Street Probe.
Oh, that'd be fucking cool.
I'd be all. Oh,
did Josh Anderson run a Beretta?
No, Josh Anderson runs a third gen.
What year was yours?
96.
I don't remember. The 91 had like a crazy roof line on it. You see that? Is that the same?
No, that was mine. Was the later body style. Mine looked more like sporty,
more roundy.
Yeah, more round.
Yeah,
like
95. The 95 is the one. That was the one with the 3 spoke.
And the only option was like
the GT had 5 spokes,
and it was like option with like a spoiler, right? That was like the GT.
GT had the.
Did you have that interior?
That interior, yeah. And those seats fold down.
Oh, I'm telling you right there. Yeah,
the seats fold down, and you're in the hatch.
Yeah, you build a
You back that up on the dam at Lake Lanier. Telling you what,
you and Corey, man. After a long day of hanging sheetrock. Damn.
You bring a Pro Street one of those out, you're breaking the internet. That's it.
That would be fucking sweet.
Yeah, you just show up with like one of those. Just be like, Pro Street's back.
That's just not $2,500. The Pro Street.
The Pro Street part's more.
Well, the thing you got to do it like old school Pro Street. I think like the cheap Pro Street, right? Like ladder bars. That was I started doing. That was my very first job in cars. Was doing Pro Street cars. That was my very first gig. And it was like, so I lived through that world of like, we literally hung out at Woolworths in the parking lot with all Pro Street cars and my Volkswagen Bug.
How did you get that
Here's
gig?
the deal.
What kind of shop or what?
So it was a shop in our time. Like we were in a small town, 10,000 people. We were about an hour outside of the capital city of Ottawa. But back then, I mean, this is like 80s and 90s. No one paid people to build cars. So it was all just like the local mechanics. So my buddy had a Duster, and this is Canada, right? So I remember him and I had a similar story where we both got literally arrested by our local police force. He was arrested for driving a race car on the streets because he had a 74 Duster Pro Street, and the cops pulled him over, literally threw him in jail that night. And I was arrested for driving a monster truck. on the street. I had a Jeep CJ on 35s, and they literally pulled me over 35-inch tall tires. Yeah, 35-inch Mickey Thompson, the original Mickey Thompson with that crazy tread with the hook that went around like the old school Mickey
Baja?
T's. Yeah, the Baja
Tee.
claws. Yeah, old school Baja claws. I got pulled over and literally was thrown in the jail. Now we were both apprentice mechanics, and so up in Canada, everything is like, it's like there's a book for all the vehicle laws.
Yeah.
And so we literally got yanked in. And so we literally pulled the book out. We're like, show us where that car is illegal, because it's not. And they had to pull the book out, and they're like, well, it says you got to have this. And, you know, there's always, and we met every single rule, except we were like right on the edge. Like if you read the rules, it's like the rule is that you got to have, the best rule was you couldn't have a chip in your windshield within the sweep of the wipers. That was the law. That's a law in Canada. But there's no law that says you can't remove the wipers from the vehicle. So you just remove the wipers and you don't need a windshield.
Eliminates the chip.
It eliminates the chip. Like there's all these like little gray areas where you just play this game all day long, and that's how you play the game. That's how you live your life.
If I find the right probe, it's got to be the right color. It's got to be the color I had. If I buy the probe, will you build the chassis for it? If we can get somebody to donate the Bill Mitchell hardcore with a
540.
Yeah, it's like
632. I'll back half that thing for you.
I need somebody to give the Bill Mitchell or the gear drive.
Oh yeah, you gotta have a gear drive in the small. Like, yeah, you gotta have that whiny gear drive in the front end. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
We're done deal.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah, you gotta have a tunnel ram, not supercharger, gear drive. Yeah, so it sounds like a supercharger.
Oh,
yeah.
Man, that'd be so
wait. And the question would be then, is it going to be like Weld 5 stars or Convo Pros?
Oh, Weld. I think Weld 5 stars. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
You probably put a little fogger kit on that too. You don't use it.
Yeah. You just
but you hardline the whole thing and polish it. Yeah.
No, you purge it. You purge it all the time. Running fucking idling,
15
idling around the fairground. If we were to put you out front right now, blindfold you, would you be able to tell if it was Thornbirds, Swampers, or Dixie Pecks?
Oh, probably. I mean, I could probably tell if they were bias or radial, but I don't know if I could do the other ones. Yeah, it'd be pretty easy to swap out the bias pretty quick. Yeah, so it'd be easy to hear.
Yeah, fucking set of Thornbirds back in the day.
Oh man,
you hear that 3 miles away.
Yeah, my buddy had him on his Explorer, and he'd be like, "Listen to them birds howl. You hear them birds? Them birds are singing."
No, the hot ticket is TSLs in the front and boggers in the back.
Really?
That's the mullet of off road.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, it used to be. Yeah. So what you do is you do a TSL up front. So that's like the standard, and then the bogger in the back with basically a paddle tire. That was considered the mullet of off road in the 90s. Yeah, because that's just party up front. You know, just like all day long. But yeah, you'd throw boggers in the back and TSLs up front. That was a good thing. Yeah. Nowadays, that's the other thing that's happened so much is our tire technology's come so far. I mean, now it's like 42-inch full sticky red label on a 20. I mean, that's our tire all day long. Like if it's not a 42 full sticky compound, I mean, you know, we're spending $2,000 a tire.
Really?
All day long.
And how long do those last for you?
I was shocked. So I did a trip a couple years ago where we did a lot of road miles, and the key to a red label, a red label, that's what we call them, red label. It's not DOT legal, but we still run them on the street. If you play with the tire pressure, that's the most important thing. So when we're off road, if we're racing, we'll do 18 to 20 PSI. If we're rock crawling, we do 3 to 4. And then on the highway, we fill them up as much as we can. So we'll do 35 PSI if we can. And then it balloons up. And then it's all about watching your speed. So you never hold a steady speed. Because when you hold a steady speed, the tire heat builds in the tire. So you'll do like 70, pull it down to 65, do 75. Just dance with that. Even 5 miles an hour makes a huge difference on that tire. But yeah, I did 1,800 miles on a trip on a set of 42 reds, and I only lost about 1/8 of an inch, which was actually pretty impressive. I thought normally we go through a set of season if you're wheeling it hard. Yeah.
A whole different ballgame. Best car movie and why?
See, I listened to the podcast, so I already knew.
Oh, you prepped.
I prepared.
That's fine. I'll throw some fucking curveballs in here.
So I got 2 for 2 different reasons. Mm-hmm. So Dust to Glory. You ever watch Dust to Glory?
Yeah.
Great movie, Dust to Glory. And then
I don't know Dust to Glory.
Oh, Dust to Glory is it's a Dana Brown documentary about the Baja 1000, and he did it like pre-GoPro. So the first one he did like pre-GoPro. So it's like they went across the border with probably $1 million worth of camera equipment, and it was crazy. And like they came back with probably half of it. And for what they did, that first one, it was so well done because it was done by like an actual documentary film guy. They found a dude, this guy Mouse McCoy. He was the first guy who was going to Iron Man the 1,000 on a bike, and it was just a good story. I think that's the thing that I think a lot of people forget. Whenever you're making like content or videos and stuff, everyone forgets it's story first, everything else second. So it was a super good story. The second one wasn't so good, but Dust to Glory is great. And then my second one would be Need for Speed. And the only reason I choose Need for Speed is the unsung hero of that movie is that was the first car movie made in modern day that there was no CGI in that movie. Every car in that movie was 100% driven and wrecked and jumped and thrown. And yeah, that was their like the selling point behind the movie. So they're going to make this car movie with no CGI. Huh. And so now the cars weren't real. So like when they did I don't know if you're familiar with the movie, but it's like at the end, they're like racing like Koenigsegg's and stuff up this canyon road.
Yeah, now I remember it.
They're all fake, but those were like the movie cars where it's like someone sitting on the roof driving it, and it's all like fiberglass body over an exo cage car. But yeah, that car movie was all no CGI. So that was the kicker for me. That's what made that car cool. That movie cool, I should say.
So you're trying to tell me that wheelie in Fast and the Furious is CGI?
It's not real. Yeah, no.
Damn it.
There's actually, see, my problem with Fast and the Furious was, so
when they went to space.
Well, no, there's many problems with the Fast and Furious franchise, but this is my problem with Fast and Furious, and I can't really fault them because it was funny because it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and I went to like quote street races, and they didn't look anything like a Fast and the Furious movie street race. It was a bunch of old dudes hanging out in a parking lot. There was no like music playing and hot chick.
It wasn't a race.
No, it was not. No, it was not. But now it is. Like if you go to like a Grid Life event, it looks like a Fast and the Furious movie. So I give them props for that. But my problem is, previous to that, you could be a car guy and just be out of shape, and it was okay. Now, if you don't look like Dominic Toretto, you are not a good car guy. Like, it's like, where's your six pack abs while you're working on that car? It's like, I am eating Pop-Tarts and building cars here. I don't have time to like go to the gym. That's why I don't like Fast and Furious. That's my beef with that movie.
That's the first angle I've heard on that one.
Yeah, it's good with everything else. Just that Dom's physique.
No, so do you listen to the podcast, How Did This Get Made?
No.
Oh, God. So number one, put that on your list, because if you watch any of the Fast and Furious movies, listen to How Did This Get Made? And it is an amazing podcast. So it's like they make fun of Fast and Furious, but in like a serious side where it's like the whole theory of the podcast is like, how did these movies actually get made? Who greenlit this movie? Because this is a stupid idea. And so they go through the movie and they just make fun of the fact that like the latest Fast 10, right? Like, how did they get another submarine? Like that, like where did this other, like the whole thing is just, it's
you would think outrageous. At some point, like there'd be a presidential order about like this group of guys not having access to all of the latest technology.
But that's that whole thing, right? Like that, if you know the behind the scenes of Fast and Furious, right? So Fast and Furious launches, Fast 2, like the Vin Diesel's out. Yep. He thinks it's a joke. He thinks it's stupid. He quits. He's never going to do this. Then by 3, he realized this is just a money-making machine.
Oh, shit. I'd like to get paid.
And the network is just like, and the studio is just like, we will make as many of these as we possibly can. Like 7 was supposed to be the last Fast and the Furious. That's when the network was like, no, we need more. And they just, all right, fine, we'll just go to space.
You think it's almost like a joke? Like, what can we get away with?
It has to be at this point, right?
Space has to be.
Yeah.
It's so
it has to be just people just sitting around, just be like, just as high as a kite, right? They're just like they're just like dropping CBD gummies and they're just like rocking it out, right? It's like, all right, so just hear me out. What if we took a Fiero to space? Like, no, there's no way that makes any sense. No.
I still haven't watched the last one.
I think I watched 10 on the plane because there was nothing else. And they went to space and then they're like just jumping like 3,000 miles in a car to hit
Space
something.
one's the last one.
No,
was the
that was
last one.
9. 9 they
maybe
went
nine.
to space. 10
Okay.
10 was, and I
I think
mean,
I've seen 10.
I watched it and then I watched it again, thinking maybe I wasn't
You missed
fair
it?
to it, but it's still really bad.
Is it still the same crews? Like Luda's still in it?
Well, no, this is the
Luda's
best
the one
part.
ripping it in his face.
Everyone who's died has come back. Like nobody. The best part is the only person who hasn't come back is the person who's actually died. But he's still alive in the Fast and Furious universe.
Are you serious?
I am absolutely serious. Yes, he's still alive. He just doesn't
like
come
off
to
somewhere?
He's just busy.
He just doesn't come to any of the missions. Just Brian's busy. Like
Got a fucking desk job.
I have no
They've got
idea
him
that-
inundated with paperwork.
That's the single most greatest fact that's come out of this entire
is.
podcast. So everybody that's died in the movie has made their way back in.
as of 10, every person who has died in a Fast and the Furious film is now alive again.
They just find him. They were like off in Colombia doing something for like
Just random stuff. Yeah. Like it's just like Han
Thought I was dead.
Han who died in 3 came back in 7. Like no one dies. No one dies. They all come back.
What about the from 1, the little crackhead dude in the VW that got blown up?
Yeah, he's the only one. He's the
'Cause that
only
was-
one. Yeah.
He was full blown dead.
Yeah, he was
dead.
super dead. That was back when it was still a movie about cars.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was when they actually involved. I don't think in 10 there's a single like actual car
part
thing. I think there's one pseudo race, and that's it. You can like in when they started to get further along, they sort of like you could tell they were like they're basically superheroes at this point, right? So it's like they can do anything. But I think like by this point in time, they still try to put some car stuff in, but
I'm telling
there's
you,
no car stuff in there.
Number 1, I'm not gonna even try to act like I didn't like it.
What's that? Oh, the first
Seeing
one.
Fast and Furious in the theater.
I
when that was-
I wouldn't argue with that at all.
It was so. I mean, that was like we were living that life and
Yeah.
seeing that shit like on the TV. They got so many things wrong and names and stuff like that, but it didn't fucking matter. It was like you're seeing all these brands, and I was going to SEMA at that point in time, and it just like seeing that on the big screen was like, we fucking made it.
Oh, if it wasn't for Fast and the Furious, NOS energy drink probably would not exist.
Oh, 100%.
and
Nobody would know what NOS was.
And Holly will be the first one to tell you they make more money off NOS than off any other part in their catalog. Just that one licensing deal, basic. Yeah. Oh, that's their number one revenue stream is just licensing, or at least it was. I don't know if it's still out there, but yeah, that licensing nitrous. Well, NOS.
Well, that's the first time
Off
I
the
ever
Coca-Cola.
heard the word NOS was in that movie. I'm like, NOS. Oh, they're just saying NOS. Oh,
Yeah, nitrous.
that's weird. I don't like hearing saying NOS.
That's when you didn't hire like an actual, because every movie's got like when they hire like every movie's got like a subject matter expert, right? So like when you're talking about historical pieces, there's going to be people who come in and they're like, oh, that weapon is right, that weapon's wrong, all that kind of stuff. That when I watched that movie, when they screamed out NOS, I was like, this movie did not hire.
Wasn't
anybody.
Lieberman a big part of that movie at that point?
I think
Fast
so.
and Furious 1?
Yeah. But it was like
Anybody
how that got
named Lieberman,
through.
I don't think is like a big car guy.
Oh, you've just fucked up.
Really?
Oh yeah, you've fucked up big time.
Explain. Enlighten me.
Well, we've got him on coming up as a guest, and he is probably
didn't say
the most knowledgeable
all right,
car
well,
guy
We'll
out there.
work through that. See, there you go. That's prime example.
So there you go. You can ask her like, why did you let them call it NOS? That could be question one. So why'd you call it NOS?
Why did you let them call it NOS?
Then that did drive me nuts back in there because that was right about the time I put a plate kit on my Camaro.
Yep.
And I was like, NOS. And I was so anti-import. So I was the guy like trolling them, rolling through the movie theater parking lots, looking for races with the import guys.
I wish you'd have found me.
I'd have blown your fucking doors off.
In your
200. I had a 200 wet.
So that's like,
But did it take out your manifold and your diamond plate floorboard
No, it didn't. It took
during your during your 30-minute quarter-mile run?
10-pound bottle's good for about 6 passes at 200 shot, and it doesn't last very long.
So
not 30 minutes.
The best part about how this got made, the podcast, they do a live one over one of the Fast and Furious, and they have people dress up, and someone dressed up as the runway from the one. Remember the fast one, the plane lands, and it's like the longest runway known to man. 'Cause it's like a 40-minute scene inside the
driving
movie.
in between the wheels
of the plane. Yeah, it's like I'm the longest runway. Someone did the math on it. Like that runway's got to be like 5 miles long in order for that actually to work in real life.
Shit.
Yeah.
I wonder what the fuck Vin Diesel's up to. He's
Cash and checks.
Yeah.
That's at the end of the day. That's what it boils down to.
Damn. You remember that?
I could see him getting into some weird shit after being so masculine for so long. Whatever, I could see him doing some type of Indian like spiritual kind of meditation.
Could
something.
be. Yeah.
You ever seen Knock Around, guys?
No.
Yeah.
Dude, you gotta watch that. That's like pre Fast and the Furious Vin Diesel.
Oh, see, I watched Boiler Room.
Boiler Room's a good.
That's
one.
another one with Vin Diesel. I think that was like his first one after Fast and Furious, where he was like still an actor, and then he realized that I'm just in this for the money. I think at this point,
I'm not trying to be an actor.
yeah, I'm just gonna collect checks.
Knock Around, guys. John Malkovich, and then the Riley dude from the movie Airborne, or the rollerblading movie.
Oh, yeah. What was the Vin Diesel star movie after where he was his own?
Oh, Triple X.
Yeah.
Triple X.
Yeah, where they tried to make him into a superhero. That
Yeah,
did
that
not
was
work.
it.
Yeah.
Didn't he have a Charger in that? She wasn't there like a.
Yeah, he had like the shot missiles under the
Yeah.
headlights or something. Yeah, yep.
That one didn't
He's
really do
quiet.
well.
He plays fucking low. Like, you think he's got a car collection, or is he like a?
I don't know.
I have no idea. You never know with those guys. I mean, I didn't know until recently, but the dude who plays Han Sung Kang, he's not a car guy. Like he's a little bit, but he's like on the fringe. Like he doesn't like drifting. Like, and I was like, you're from like the Tokyo Drift universe. You'd think you'd kind of like embrace that before you went into that game. But yeah, he's just like,
They've got a car podcast now, don't they?
they do.
Him and,
him and Amelia. Yeah. But he's like a friend. He's like a car builder fringe. But yeah, he dropped on that podcast. He's like, I don't really like drifting. And I'm like, wow, that's a brave thing to say when you're from the Tokyo Drift franchise.
Are you again racially profiling based on your like? You know, how you, I feel like
It's like you're the exact guy we would have picked for the drifting car show. How are you telling me?
yeah, if my producer came to me and was like, "We need a drifting guy," like, you're the guy I'd pick.
Yeah, I'm
Vin
picking you,
Diesel-
Mr. Driven guy.
I'm telling you what, there's something out there. It's either I heard it or it's premonition. There's something going to be coming out. Vin Diesel seems like the type that Siegfried and Roy would have left their tigers to. Like in the will, like he's gonna he's gonna be Vin
He's
Diesel.
going to show up with a Vegas, what do they
He's
call it?
like,
Residency, Vegas residency, where he just talks about being on
He's
Fast and
got the
Furious.
tigers now. Like,
And he's just
I'm
going
telling you,
to he's just going to talk about being all his Fast and the Furious stories.
Yeah.
At a Vegas.
he's not
residency.
the type of guy that just drifts off into history and never to be heard about.
No, I agree with that. Yeah.
He's coming back, and there's gonna be something like, fuck, what? Vin Diesel? Really?
Dude, I'd be
A Vegas
signed up to watch
residency
it.
is
like,
Vegas
I mean,
residency with Vin Diesel.
I mean, if Kiss can do it, I mean, come on, like, yep. There's apparently there's good money in those Vegas residency. I mean, U2's doing it. The
There's
Sphere.
people like U2, Garth Brooks, like Faith Hill, Elvis. You know,
who wants to listen to U2 though? Honestly,
I have no.
I mean,
idea.
I looked it up because we were at the F1 race and they're at the Sphere, and so we looked it up, and I mean, it's like a $10 million deal, and then they get 90% of the ticket sales inside that Sphere.
good for them.
So it's huge. Huge.
I could be wrong. This could be one of Jeremy's smoke bombs. I just don't know if I've ever ran into somebody that's like a U2 fan.
I'm with you.
And
I think it's a generational thing. Like I think my generation was big U2, but I can't think of anyone who's a U2 fan like now. See, U2 is like Breakfast Club. Like if you're a Breakfast Club fan, you're a YouTube fan.
I can't even name a
Yeah, it doesn't
song.
say.
There's
I
like, I
don't
mean, I
know,
like
single song.
tons of like, you name it, stuff from like the 30s all the way to current. But U2, I mean, it's like U2 and Bruce Springsteen. I put those people in the same group.
careful.
I'm not.
Balls.
Hey, watch out! The Rust Belt's gonna come get you. You better be careful.
Boss,
telling you,
Born in the
can
USA?
sing. Boss can sing, and he's from. I mean, he's from America. He's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's two different things.
I don't-
Don't- take it back.
I
Hey,
stand
the only
corrected.
reason that
Stand
U2 is
corrected.
still from Ireland is because it's 100% tax free to be an artist in Ireland. That's why they're still from Ireland.
U2 just seems like it's a.
Which is another place you should go if you haven't been to Ireland. You should put that on your list. You should definitely go to Ireland.
Not much of a traveler. I don't know.
But do you like Guinness beer?
I do not.
Oh, then don't go to Ireland.
All right.
U2 doesn't seem like a real band that started because of music. It seems like if the UN
like
were
the
to create a band, like if it would be
I
like
could see it being a government conspiracy.
the UN was like,
there's
hey, we need a
something-
band to go out there
Just make it,
like,
and talk about trash, cleaning up plastic in the oceans.
It's,
I
like
could
it's
see-
a UN backed band.
It's hard. It's hard to
It's
take.
like U2.
Yeah.
Like it fucking makes perfect
Yeah,
sense.
it's hard to take anyone serious who wears sunglasses indoors at all times. Yeah, I
especially
understand
that.
that. Yeah.
And
I could see
he's
that.
a scarf wearer too, right?
Probably.
Yeah, I think he's a big scarf guy.
Yeah, there was a
2
scarf
strikes.
wearer on my plane today. I don't understand the scarf.
Speaking of scarves, that's another fucking smoke bomb you made.
Yeah.
Oh, did you drop a scarf on somebody?
Yeah, not just anybody. Doug,
Doug Glad from
Glad from Hot Rod.
Oh,
Like, at the time he was like an editor of Hot Rod?
I think he's still like the head King Kong.
Doug's a good dude, right?
Yeah, he's a great guy.
And then he made somehow we pulled it off that they came out here to do like a multi-day like feature
It was
on
amazing.
a bunch of our cars. It was so cool.
He hadn't done it since after the.
I don't know how it came up in conversation.
It was something about I don't even know how it came up and why you would even talk about it. And you went so hard on like a scarf guy and a scarf wearer or something like that. And I think it was Tim Foss that pulled up a picture.
No,
of
we got
Doug.
up from lunch
Yeah,
and
he
he
had a
fucking
scarf.
puts his
Yeah, he
scarf
puts
on.
his scarf on.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
no.
yeah, he like throws it around.
Did he tuck it in extra
Oh, yeah,
hard just to make sure that you knew he was wearing
Yeah.
a scarf? He's like, I wear scarves.
Yeah, it was
He
like a
sent
big,
us. He sent us scarves too.
You got him embroidered with a war.
he took it on the chin.
At least he
man.
owns it. Yeah. Was McGann out here for that? Was John McGann? Do you know John?
No,
John
it was-
McGann?
No,
It was
of
Wes
him.
Allison. And,
Okay. Do you know John?
No, I'm never.
Okay,
Met him.
yeah. Yeah, we did a show with John McGann. We helped them launch CarCraft TV last year, and we did a show with John. And it was funny because John's like super soft-spoken, super nice guy, and we did the first show, and he's just like, this is this personality type. So we put him in front of the camera, and we kept him as John, and we floated it into Motor Trend, and they were like, it's just not. It's not how we do things. I mean, you got to yell at the camera. Today on this, we're doing this. And I'm just like, have you met John McGann?
Not the guy.
He's not the guy to be yelling at the camera like Freiberger. That's not his personality type, right? Doesn't play that
Don't
game.
they have a podcast now?
Yeah, he started one. Yeah, so him and Freiberger. And there's a lot of flux at Motor Trend right now because Discovery just did the final buyout on him. So now Discovery owns them 100%. So Hot Rod's gone quarterly. It's just, there's a lot. We're going to see a lot of movement in the next year. There's going to be a lot of stuff shake up.
Good
or
movement.
bad?
What do you think's coming?
That's the same thing.
Well, I mean, if you look at the like Discovery Channel when they originally went in to buy Motor Trend Studios, all they wanted was the app, Roadkill, and one other property. They had no interest in print magazines. That's just not what they did, because that's not what Discovery does. Right. So whether they let the magazine live, I don't know. That'll boil down to, honestly, it's at the end of the day, it's all money, right? It's like I said before, it's show business, not show charity. So if the magazine can still make money on its own, it'll be fine. If it can't, then it won't be. I can't imagine them letting them take like an iconic thing like Hot Rod and letting it go away.
You should. There's no way you could do that.
No.
It's like we've always said, like that one will just live forever.
Yeah,
It should.
I think I think Hot Rod should live forever. Right now, the only thing left in print now is Hot Rod and Motor Trend. That's it. And when they crashed, remember at PRI, I think it was like 3 years ago, they crashed like 20 magazines in one day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was we were
Perfect
advertising in
fucking timing.
every single one.
Yeah,
of them.
well, we were. I was in the meeting
frightening.
when they came to us and they were like, "We want to do CarCraft TV," and I said, "Great, we'll do CarCraft TV." I said, "Now, what do you want to do about Street Rider TV, Lowrider TV, Mini Truck TV?" I said, "We'll do them all." I said, "Float them all, send them all our way." I said, "We've got the studio space, we got the place, we can do it all." And I think they missed the boat. I think they should have jumped on that straight out of the gate, because what happens is once that marketing money moves somewhere else, it's just gone forever. It doesn't come back. It's not like someone like takes that money and goes like, "Oh, okay, now I'll come back and spend it over here."
Yeah, you're right.
I think they should have capitalized on that hard right out of the gate, but I think they missed the boat on that.
Dude, we're in the grand scheme of things, we're a tiny little company or tiny little customer to them. We're spending a fortune with them across, a ton of magazines. And like you said, it's just gone.
When the magazines went away, the reality is the hardest job in the automotive aftermarket was the marketing person, because up until then, I always made the joke that like the reality was up until that point in time, like Brian at Low Car would have one meeting at SEMA with the guys from Source and be like, same deal as last year? Yep, sign here. Thank you. That was.
I hope Brian's listening right now.
That's Brian's worth.
Yeah, that was the end of the conversation, right? Because you did it. You bought your back page in Street Rodder. You bought this. You just did the same deals last year, and away you went. And then all of a sudden, if you weren't like playing the game of understanding, because for the past 5 years, we've been in the mix, right? So we would go to SEMA and we'd sit down, we'd have meetings with customers. And I tell them all the time, I'm like, listen, I'm on TV. I understand it's still a viable place to play. You should put some money in there. But at the end of the day, I tell people all the time, nowadays, it's the new real estate. In the 80s, everyone told you, if you open a business, first thing you want to do is own your building. That's it. Real estate. That's the key to longevity in this world. Nowadays, it's content. So if you want to own your content to come out the back end, and we were telling people that 5 years ago, we're like, look outside of our industry, and then fast forward 5 years, and that's where we'll be. So like Red Bull didn't start an F1 team because it was a good idea financially. They started a F1 team because at the end of the day, it was content. Because at the end of the day, the leaderboard would say Ferrari, McLaren, Red Bull. It was the same amount of money to sponsor the team as it was to own the team. And so they all of a sudden they're a car builder instantly overnight. But it took somebody at Red Bull to say, yeah, we'll write that $100 million check to own an F1 team to make that decision. The funny backstory behind Red Bull is the reason that even happened was they were buying advertising at F1 races, but they didn't see any return on the investment at all. And somebody in Red Bull said, all right, we should make a magazine and give it away at the races. And somebody will ask, why would someone keep the magazine if we give it away at a race? There's no point. And they said, well, we'll print the winners on the last page of the magazine. So they carried a printer around to every Formula One race in the country in a shipping container, and they would print the first 100 pages of a magazine, and they'd hold the last page until the winners crossed the line. They'd print the last page, and they'd hand out the magazine on the way out the door. That was the birth of Red Bull Media House. That's how it all started. Jeez. But that was like 12, 13 years ago. And so if you take our industry, which is a little behind, because that's just the way we are, automotive, all you have to do is back up and say, when was the last time Johnson & Johnson bought a commercial? They don't. They own a website. They strategically play the game, right? So we've been telling people for years to do this. And now I think with the loss of the magazines, we see people who are now looking at it and saying, okay, we want to own our content, So like our biggest customers now are not, like we still do stuff for studios like Motor Trend, Discovery, Hemmings, and Speed Vision. But the bulk of my company's money is made off of making content for companies like ESAB, Yukon, Onyx Off-Road. Yeah. They just want content because they know that if we put it on if we invest in it, put it on our YouTube channel, we 100% control the message and we 100% control the audience. And that's the most important part for them. That's how the game's played.
Well, and that's the best return because a fabricator, the guys watching your video, there's no better way of marketing that product than seeing you using it.
Yep.
I mean, it's from the horse's mouth that like, hey, this is the welder to use and this is why you should use it.
Yep.
Rather than just seeing some random ad in a magazine.
And then it's also nowadays, a lot of it is about experiences, right? Like if you look at, Holly and what they've done with LS Fest, like they'll be the first one to admit that was not a plan. They were not trying to get into the event business, but now that's like, it makes a lot of money, right? So, and at the end of the day, we used to talk about all the time, like without the SEMAs, without the LS Fests, without the events, there's no reason to build a car. Like why without King of the Hammers, why would you build an off-road car? Like because if there's nowhere to take it, to show it off, to see it having fun, you wouldn't build it there and you wouldn't sell parts. So now with manufacturers stepping in saying, you know what, we'll do our own, like we talked about, doing those road trips and those, that's nowadays, that's what people want.
Yeah.
They want to go out and use the part, use the product and be part of an experience versus just, an advertisement.
Yeah. It's really well said. It's exactly what the market's going to. Tell us about the Hemmings 4x4 tested.
So that was the behind the scenes the story behind that is most of the people who worked at Motor Trend now work at Hemmings. So a lot of the behind the scenes team have moved over to Hemmings. Preemptively, a few of them would tell you off the record because they don't want to be there when Hot Rod gets shut down Because if you're the guy who's like at Hot Rod, at Motor Trend, when the day they say
You're an
shut it,
asshole.
you're
the guy
a
that took it
pariah.
down.
Yeah, you're the guy. It doesn't matter if you're the dude delivering the magazine. You're the guy that ruined Hot Rod, right? Like you're just. So a lot of those guys moved over there, and so they reached out to me and said, "Hey, will you do some some tested stuff?" And I said, "Yeah." Well, and we did a couple of them, and we did some where we do like vehicle to vehicle stuff, which I think it's really cool because right now in the off-road world, we got like a lot of, there's like a new Bronco and an old Bronco. There's like a new Gladiator and an old Gladiator. There's a new Defender and a classic Defender. So I think there's a lot of that to play with. And so we just said, hey, let's throw some of these videos out and see what happens. So that was literally just an idea to see what would happen. It's been fun. They're fun to work with, but it's literally, I work with everyone. I used to work with that Motor Trend.
Any surprises in doing those side by sides?
No, I mean, it was pretty, I mean, it's what you expect, right? The new Defender is not as cool as a classic. New Bronco is not as cool as a classic Bronco, but there is a market for it.
What kind of person do you think drives a new Bronco?
I literally, like I said, I owned a Bronco I didn't even own it for a minute. I ordered it on
now.
Yeah. So it's, the new Bronco person is the person who doesn't want to be a Jeep person because they don't want to be a Jeep guy or Jeep girl. Like they don't want to be that. But they still kind of want an off-road car that's never going to go into four-wheel drive. Like that's the reality. Like there's a lot of issues with the new Bronco, especially off-road. It does not do well off-road.
Probably something to prove, maybe size-wise or something.
Yeah, there's something wrong. Something just seems off.
Yeah, down below the waist, usually. Like it's
just
some kind of jarbled up mess.
I've got a Bronco.
Which one did you get?
I got the Raptor.
Oh, you got the Bronco Raptor?
Yeah.
I got a Bronco that I'm building right now because I said that Ford screwed up. They built the wrong Bronco Raptor because they should have built an OJ Bronco. Like they should have went a full-size Bronco and do the Raptor. So I've got an OJ Bronco that I'm doing a full twin I-beam front Godzilla motor.
Oh, that'd be fucking sweet.
There's a, you guys know Fiberworks.
Yeah.
Fiberworks does a
they do
full
some awesome
Raptor
stuff.
They do a full Raptor conversion for the Bronco, so it's full Bronco bedsides, full it looks like a Gen 3
Really?
Raptor. Oh yeah, it's a full kit. It's perfect. One piece front
That's
end.
fucking cool.
Yeah, and so my theory was, I was like, I can build a Bronco for like the same price as a Bronco Raptor, so I can make it because
Paint it white.
It is white.
No, you fucking kill your wife now and get away.
Like, I just need the gloves and I gotta stretch my hands out.
You get a sponsor for that, I'm sure. Hey, you
Juice.
got the fucking man's Bronco. Good thing about you, like Maddie, 4 more years. That's a perfect car for a 16-year-old girl. You take the doors off it and everything.
The issue with the Bronco Raptors is they're on their 4th generation of steering rack redesign. There's no
You blow them up pretty regularly.
there's no fix for them because the fix is that you can't do. So it's a full EPS power steering rack, but there's no hydraulic in it. So the Jeep is an EPS, but it's still it's a electric power steering hydraulic motor. And what people don't understand is when you're off road, when you hit something with that tire, the hydraulic system inside your steering system almost works like a shock absorber.
Yeah.
So when you remove that hydraulic on the EPS rack, it's literally just like a tiny little supercharger belt. It's about that wide. It looks like a cell phone inside. There's so much electronics inside that rack. So there's no shock in it. And there is a company that came out with a complete conversion for it. It was beautiful. It's full hydraulic rack, new pump, new reservoir, everything. And they couldn't get it through NTSB because the rack is part of the lane assist departure safety stuff. And so it's the modern equivalent of cutting a catalytic converter off. And so there's literally a fix out there in the aftermarket that cannot be sold. And it's kind of a bummer, but because 74 weld makes like a bill.
Yeah,
like
they
you
do
can
a whole
keep
billet housing.
You can throw billet racks at it all you want all day long and these big beefy tie rods, but at the end of the day, it's still it's the way the system functions that's the failure point.
I mean, that's not a cheap date either to go out and just develop a hydraulic rack
No.
for the car and then to be
No.
like slapped on the hand and say nope.
Off-road use only?
I don't know if they could get away with that because the problem is you can play that game with off-road use only, but when you start, like the company that designed it is big enough that I think that it's not worth the risk.
Gotcha.
If it was a time, like there might still be Canadian companies that are doing DEF deletes or DPF deletes out there, but I mean, that's a whole Canada thing, right? So yeah, there's that whole game of playing that. But I think this, like I've seen it and I completely understand the science behind why it would fix it. but I also understand that that's the modern car problem, right? It's like, how do you play that fine game of like, where is it allowed to modify stuff that you're not allowed to modify anymore?
Dude, I keep getting back to, I'm just thinking about the fucking Bronco. I'm thinking about the fucking video that could be done with that thing. You get mechanics wear in on the gloves. a dark shot. Like, yeah, just
hand doesn't fit on the Bronco.
Yeah.
Just dragging your wife out to the pool house. Like,
and maybe just allude to a few of those things.
Yeah,
So don't actually do that.
Yeah.
Show the pool house.
Yeah, show the pool
gate
house.
closing, the glove going on.
What was the guy's name who lived in the pool house? What was it?
fuck.
Oh, I can't. Oh, we've got
Someone's
technology.
gonna Google that.
What the
Yeah.
fuck?
He was an actor.
Yeah, he was like a famous actor guy.
Who's the lawyer? The famous.
Johnny Cochran.
Oh, it was Cochran and it was Kardashian's
Yes,
dads. Yeah, that was. Yeah, I had to because I have to look that up occasionally because I remember when the Kardashians got big, I was like, why are they famous?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
I still don't.
So yeah,
Well.
but then someone pointed out it's because their dad was the lawyer and that was the money right behind it. So yeah.
All right, I'm going to give you all it's his first and last name start with the
Same
same
letter. Yeah.
And it's both K's.
Oh man.
As soon as you say it, it'll ring a bell. It's a funky name.
Yeah, it's a weird name. It's probably a stage name. It's not a real name.
It's also a
Christopherson.
diet that you close to
Oh, Kato something.
Kato Kalin.
Kato
Yes.
Kalin. Yeah, because it was like keto. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know he was just pounding that out. And that OJ came home and saw that, and OJ was not happy.
Not happy. Yeah.
It wasn't him that was doing it. It was the waiter. It wasn't Kato that was doing it. It was the waiter Kato is still alive. Kato testified.
Yeah, the waiter died.
The waiter
Yeah, because
at the restaurant.
Yeah.
Was the one that was coming over and doing some servicing to Nicole.
I was in 8th grade when it happened, and they took
Watched
us
it on this.
Yeah, they took us all out of class. We went into the wood shop. And
To
they
watch
rolled
it?
They
We went
rolled
to the
the
library.
They rolled the projection screen TVs in there. And we were
went
all
to the
watching
library.
it. Like,
Yeah.
did you?
We went into the library and watched The Chase. Like that was literally like the.
See,
everybody-
I don't remember the chase. I remember like I was on the bench at the dealership when the like verdict came in, and like everyone like work just stopped.
We watched
And like to the
in-
point where finally the shop foreman got on like the loudspeaker and was like, "Not guilty, back to work." That was it.
We watched the entire trial in high school in history class.
Really?
Every
That
single
is a
day.
lazy
we would
teacher.
come in
That is
and
an
watch the
incredibly
trial.
lazy teacher.
It's a great teacher.
Think about that for a minute, about just society as a whole, right? That was
Being
like
glued.
1990.
4.
So that I think that trial was
3.
like, I could be mistaken, but that trial I believe was like one of the first trials that let cameras in.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was like that was the whole historical
Well, I
point behind
think
that trial.
They
Was
were
that,
pushing for. I think Kardashian was the one pushing for that.
oh, they wanted cameras in, but like I think for up until then you couldn't have a camera in,
Right.
in a court trial. But that was I think it was that trial was the first one that ever let cameras in.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Like that fucking happened. And then I remember being, I was in school when 9/11 happened, and the same thing. It's just, I mean, it's pandemonium, right? Nowadays, like we were just fucking yesterday, we're walking through
We're
a
in
shop.
Kansas City.
We're in Kansas City. We're walking through a shopping mall. We had some time to kill before we jumped on the plane. And there's like a Jumbotron. It's an outside shopping mall. And we hear people are like standing there. Well, all this fucking urgent news comes on that there's a
Shooting,
Mass
at the,
shooting.
Yeah.
And
Did
we
you
look
see
up
that?
there-
Did you see that fans like tackled the
Yeah.
dude?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
we look up there and you're like, oh fuck, there you go, that fucking stupid shit again. And
be-
you just keep like, you basically
that-
keep walking. Like
that's the-
nowadays, it's
yeah.
like that shit happens all the time, and
Yeah.
everyone's like, whatever.
Yeah, my wife and I talk about it all the time. We're like, how messed up is it that we as a society? It's like she like yelled up, there was a mass shooting. I was like, another mass shooting. It's just like,
Yeah.
what? That's just like normal now. It's
Well,
so
then you're
weird.
like, I fucking hope those dumb shits weren't using a fucking AR or something with a high capacity
Yeah,
fucking
so it
magazine.
just turns
Yeah.
into that shit.
Yep. The evil Black Rifle Club.
Oh man,
Crazy.
the Bronco video. I can't stop thinking about it. Dude, you've got
There's been
there's so much.
Who? What's his name? Did one? Fucking what's it? Goddamn, the off-road dude with the fucking
the
dog
thing, the
from
guy.
SEMA.
Do. Oh,
BJ Baldwin.
BJ Baldwin had
Oh,
a
BJ?
rad one.
Yeah, but
Bronco with that's had a Raptor front end on it.
Oh no, that's his. That's a K5. That's his K5. That's Loki the K5. Yeah, they've done some cool videos with him. The best one I think they've ever done with Monster and him and the whole crew that kind of
the Mexico one.
No, I think the Sasquatch one's the best.
Sasquatch one's good.
Yeah, because it's like I said, it's got a story behind it, right? It's like, have you seen that video? It's like BJ Baldwin. So. He's like in the woods in a ghillie suit, like pretending he's hunting, and Sasquatch like takes a shit in his helmet and then steals his Can-Am, and then they take off and like they just have all this like, because I mean like the Gymkhana movies, the Gymkhana films are interesting, but there's only so many times you can just watch a car slide around the corners. But that one had like a funny, because it was literally him chasing Sasquatch. Yeah. Through the Pacific Northwest, and they're like jumping over junk.
I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah, no, that's worth a watch.
I still like the Mexico one though, man.
When he rips those stairs,
there's just so much cool, interesting terrain that he traversed. Like,
it seems a lot more real.
Fucking cool.
You could almost do that.
Yeah,
yeah.
Well, he did.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about like
just jumping like
you could do that.
Yeah.
You know, the roads that just dropped off, and then just jumping natural things.
It starts cool too, and smoking the cigars, almost like you know, mafia. It's
really they do a lot of cool. But I mean that's one thing they've invested a lot in that whole genre of just making cool videos.
You know what Rockstar does?
What's that?
Sell to Tim Strange.
That's right. They don't make them fucking. my
drinks 4 of them and has a fucking diarrhea attack.
That's right. My favorite is
like
video.
Be a good video.
My favorite Monster thing is like now they sell water. The tour water. Have you seen that? You haven't seen that? No. So Monster, if you're ever at an event and you see like the athletes like just pounding Monster, it's not Monster, it's water. So they forever Monster Energy drink has bottled or canned water in their cans, and it's
like
called
Liquid Death.
But it was just called Tour Water. And so what it was marked on the bottom. It just said TW. Because these are like professional athletes. They're not going to drink. Right. Like when you get done skateboarding or snowboarding, everybody like, you know what I need?
Quench your thirst.
You know what I need is a fucking heart attack.
Yeah, exactly. So they used to sell this water. Well, then Liquid Death came out and like has blown up all over the world. And so now Monster has now just introduced, quote, tour water. So now you can just buy the water.
Liquid Death proves that we are the stupidest motherfuckers on the planet.
Or they're just the smartest motherfuckers on the planet. However you want to look at it.
I just don't fucking get the fact of like
the story behind Liquid Death is that's a marketing guy, 100%. He was a marketing guy first. He was an ad agency guy back in the Madison Avenue days. He wanted to start a business. He didn't know what it was going to be. He did everything except make the product before he launched the product. So he like made the commercials, made the videos, made the Facebook page, and like launched it all until the point where people were like, where do I buy this? And he's like, all right, we'll make the shit. And then they made
It sounds like a lot of people in the hot rod industry.
Yeah, it was all like, he like totally planned it out on the front end to see if people would like went to the point of like making the videos, making everything, doing the whole deal. And then as soon as he realized, yep, people will pay for this. All right, now let's can some water. And they started canning water. Yep.
Fucking water in a can.
Did you see just yesterday in a fucking vending machine, Monster, I saw it makes a drink called Rehab.
Oh, dude, that's old, man. That's that's been around for a while. Yeah, that's
so. What is that?
That's like their workout. That's to go after the workout crew.
Is that like a healthy BCAA?
I don't think it's. I don't think any of it's healthy, but I think it's supposed to be. Yeah, if you read, so we have a Monster fridge at the shop at the studio that they just fill constantly. And I don't drink a lot of Monster, but I'll just leave it. The crew loves it. They just pound that shit, right? And my favorite Monster story was my son was there with his friend, and the shop is just like, my wife calls it the fort. It's the cottage. It's not a real business. It's just where I go to play every day. So anyway, I'm there, and my son and one of his buddies wants to straight pipe his Hyundai Veloster. And so he calls me up and he goes, hey, can you put stainless on I was like, sure. And this is right around 2020 era. And he looks at me and he goes, hey, Mr. Ian, because it's the South. So you talk in the South.
Yeah.
Are you going to get that shot? Are you going to get that shot? And I said, well, I mean, I'm over 50. I mean, I probably will. I don't know, maybe. He goes, I'm not going to get it. I don't know what's in that. And I looked at him, and he was literally on his third Monster. I said, I'll give you $100 if you can tell me one thing on the side of that can means. And he looks at the can. He's like, I don't know what any of this shit is.
Exactly.
Like, well, then it wouldn't matter if they told you what's in that shot, would it? Because you don't have a clue at this point. You're just pounding monsters.
I would have thought if you're buying a Hyundai Veloster, I would have thought that's part of the financing process. Like you get through, you fill everything out, then you move over, you get your vaccination,
Not in the South.
and then not in the South, no. And then you get the straight pipes. You show up and you straight pipe the hell out of it, and it sounds like hell, but it makes. And then you download the eBay pop tune, and then life's good.
Oh yeah.
Does that have
Snap, crackle,
like
pop.
a wireless vape charging, like a Chevy? Or most new cars have a fucking little wireless charger. Does it have one for a vape?
Oh, it would. Yeah, if you go to Grid
plug-in,
Life, it's all about the vape. Yeah. We were pounding some whiskey one night, and we had a whole like fashion show of all the different car guys one night for fun. Like we had like we were.
Did you do Mike and Jim Ring?
We did. Well, no, we should. I didn't have loud enough shirts, but we did like the street racer, which is like the ears inside the hat, black socks all the way up.
Okay.
Like the whole deal. And then we did like New Balance Corvette guy, and then we did. Grid Life drifter kind of kid, lots of vape, like just like steam train looking vape coming out of them, right? Yeah, you can, and then the off road guys, it's a lot of patches, a lot of Carhartt and a lot of patches. Okay. Yeah, they all love patches.
What's the patches deal?
It's an overlanding thing. I don't know what it is, but yeah, they love their patches.
What's the rubber duck thing with the Jeeps?
Oh, I fucking hate that shit. I don't understand that. I hate it. I got somebody somewhere put a duck on someone's Jeep. Who did it first? I have no clue. But now it's like you'll get ducked. You park your Jeep somewhere, someone comes and puts a duck on it. It's supposed to be like, I like your Jeep, here's a duck. And I hate it.
Did y'all ever have the Hardy Star thing on the mirrors way back in the day?
No.
That was
Hardee's
down
Hardy?
south. It was like Hardy's the restaurant.
Really?
So you put like a Hardy Star?
There's a star. They would give them in your, like when you go through and get, and everybody put them on their antenna. So there'd be a Hardy Star.
Oh, it was like an antenna, antenna ball.
Yeah, topper thing.
Yeah, no.
I didn't.
No.
You just see them running around and stuff. The duck thing though is fucking weird.
No,
what do y'all Bronco guys do when y'all go to the meet?
I don't think Bronco guys have it. They don't have a thing yet.
There's not like a.
They don't
wave,
have
nothing. No kind of.
No.
What the Jeep has a wave. The Jeep,
Yeah, it's the 2-finger thing.
Oh, the Jeep has 100 waves. Yeah, there's all the Jeep waves, and then there's like I have a rule: if I'm driving a Jeep, I will not wave at like a bolt-on Jeep. No, like so if
it's got to be a legit. Jeep.
It's got to be like a real Jeep. Like if because I've got like the Jeep that I would drive, like I've got two that I would consider like a daily. So one is a 53 Willys wagon, JK frame swapped with a R28. And it's like chop top. It's pretty cool Jeep. Yeah. And it's kind of like my street rod Jeep. So I'll wave to like any like Jeep that's like a real Jeep. So like TJ and down, but I will not wave to a JK that's got like just an angry grill. No, there's no way. And then my other daily would be like, it's full custom. It's like a custom chassis with an aluminum bed, aluminum body. It looks like a YJ, but it's got LS and 40s. But yeah, I will not. No, because they'll wave, and I just like no, I don't.
Bronco guys, y'all just do your Starbucks.
Dude, you've got a Raptor too.
Mine's got a Raptor truck.
This is a full size.
It's not that much better.
Wait.
It's not better at all, actually.
This just dawned on me. You two have been fucking poking fun at me for being the Ranger Raptor guy. He has a full size. That's a mid-size.
It's like Raptor.
vehicle.
They're like Raptor Bros.
It's Bronco.
Mine's full size.
So but the question is, when you bought your Raptor, did you have to pay over sticker to get it?
I did not, but Ford took a year and a half and jacked the price up $6,000 from when I put my
Did they
deposit
really?
down.
See, I lucked out when I bought mine. It was like I bought it on release day. I bought the 2-door Sasquatch. They tried to get me to upgrade into the Bronco Raptor, but I didn't. And when I ordered it that year, I was at an event and there was a Ford guy there. And I said, how long am I going to have to wait for my Ford? And I gave him the build list. He goes, oh, it's 2 years minimum. There's no way you're getting that thing. And sure enough, it was 2 years later. I got a phone call. I'd forgotten I'd ordered it. I was just driving in my truck and they're like, hey, we got a build date for your Bronco. But Ford had like screwed over so many buyers by selling out their orders that they weren't allowed to sell it to anybody else without an email from me, like a written letter that said they could sell it. And so I just put a thing out to a bunch of Bronco guys. Say, I got a 2-door Sasquatch coming in if anybody wants it. And some guy's like, I'll give you $20,000 over sticker. And I said, meet me at the dealership with an envelope with 20 grand.
Sweet.
And he said, no problem. And he showed up and he goes, I'll take it. And I said, sell him that truck. And they were like, no problem.
Yeah, there was a dealership here. They were going for like 120, 130 grand for a $60,000 truck.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
The Hummer,
Fucking stupid people.
the EV Hummer was selling for 100% markup. So it was like $150,000 truck. People were paying $300,000 for it.
Has anybody ever, have you looked into how inefficient that vehicle is?
Oh, it's insane. I would think I like EVs for certain reasons.
Golf carts.
Well, no, I like EVs for 90% of the population isn't us.
Oh, you're right.
For them, a car is an appliance.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care. It's a toaster. They don't give a shit about what kind of car it is. If they drove EVs, that's more gasoline for the rest of us, more diesel fuel for the rest of us. So for a lot of the world, an EV makes perfect sense. I think there's a lot of cool technology we can play with. I deal with a company out of Salt Lake called Hypercraft. They do the battery packs and stuff. And we've been talking a lot about doing some long travel sand car stuff with some EV stuff. And so we're doing a couple builds with that kind of jazz. And also I think there's some hybrid technology out there, but I think like a Hummer EV makes no sense. That's a like take the heaviest car you can and make it electric. It's like the Ford Lightning. It is not a good idea.
You could put GM's new 632 in it with fuel injection and it be more efficient than what that is.
Yes.
I'm serious.
You could
look at the fucking studies on
you could put a deleted 12 valve Cummins. Like I don't. So here's the thing so not to get political,
but it's not EV.
I don't understand how it's better for the environment that I drive a diesel, that when I fill it up, before I fill it up, I need to go buy a cardboard box that inside that box is a plastic jug that I then pour into my thing. And then when I throw that in the landfill, and then, but before I could buy that, a truck had to deliver that cardboard box. Like this makes no sense.
And there's a fucking pretty good chance that you ignored the message on the dash. So now you're fucking on the side of the road because it went in limp mode and you're getting towed by another diesel.
Truck. And and the best one is the repair for that is literally like if you drive a Ford, if you push that thing past its limit, the repair is let idle for 3 hours. Like that's the repair, just idle for 3 hours. That's not better for the environment. There's no way. And then on top of that, if I deleted it, I'd get better fuel mileage.
Yeah.
And so how is that like it to me? It's like, who do you trust? Do you trust the oil company or the government? And those are just two people that you just can't trust.
That's a flip of the coin there. Yeah, that's a tough one.
There's no one to pick, right? There's no winner there. There's no winner at all.
We had a F-350 probably fucking 10 years ago now that we straight piped and put a tuner on.
That thing was nasty.
And a bunch of the employees would drive it and they'd obviously put it on the hot tune and see what it'll do. And then they blew turbo seal or something in it. And we ended up getting like 40 miles to the gallon out of the thing. Like we drove from here to Columbus, Ohio and back. But you put the filter on, you put the def in, and you're down to like 6 miles a gallon.
Yep. Yeah, my son I bought him the VW Jetta. It was not the cheater diesel. It was the generation previous. So no DPF, no nothing, just straight pipe. But that Jetta got 55 miles per gallon in that car. Shit. And that was his daily driver was a 55 mile per gallon Jetta. That same vehicle now gets like maybe 12 to 14.
You're filling up once a year.
Yeah.
I'd run out of gas so much less in one of those.
The best story about that car was so when he was looking for a first car, I told him, I'm like, I'm getting you a VW Jetta diesel. I said, it's going to be a great first car. Because in Canada, they were everywhere. Because up until recently in Canada, diesel was always cheaper than gasoline. That was just the way it was. So if you wanted to save a little bit of money, you bought a diesel. It was more work because of the cold, but diesel was always cheaper. It was actually a federal law that kept diesel below the price of gasoline. Because when diesel's cheap, everything's cheap. Bread's cheap, eggs are cheap because everything comes on a diesel truck, right? So I said, we're going to get you a diesel Jetta. I found one online. We went to look at it. And the dude I looked at, he was the second owner, but he just bought it that day. And I said, why are you selling this car? And he goes, my kid won't drive it. He goes, I bought it. He did like something with used car lots. And he said he went around to this car lot, saw this truck, saw his car. That'd be great for his kid. So he bought it. And he said, my kid won't drive it. Says it's an old man car. He won't drive it at all. So he said, thinks it's stupid. He wants a Tahoe. And so I said, well, I'll buy it. So I bought it for like $4,000. Brought it home, coilovers, wheels, tires, wrapped the hood, did a bunch of stuff to it, deleted all the chrome. He drove it to school the next day. And that same kid was like, where'd you get that cool car? And he's like, dude, that's the car you didn't want. And then all of his friends were like, hey, Mr. Ian, where do I find one of those VW Jetta diesels? Those are really cool. Because he was filling up like once a month. It was 50 miles per gallon.
Best piece of advice you've ever received?
So the best piece of advice I've received was from a mechanic who trained me years ago. His name was Paul Grew. Called him Lumpy. It was know the rules before you break the rules. And so the story behind that was I was doing like brakes on a G body, and the standard rule, right? You just run the castle nut down till it's tight, back it off, quarter turn, throw the cotter pin in, spin the rotor, throw the tire and wheel on. And he saw me doing that when I was an apprentice, and he stopped me and he's like, stop. Why did you do that? And I was like, well, because that's just what you always do. And he goes, that's not the rule. He goes, look it up in the fucking book. What's the spec? There's an actual specification for the run out on that rotor. And so I looked it up, and sure enough, you actually put a dial indicator on it. You measure the actual backlash in that rotor when you back the bearing off. And he said, now that you've done that, now you know what it's supposed to feel like. And now you can, so once you know that rule, now you can break that rule. And he said, so that was his rule. And that was who taught me. He was the guy who, when I started as a transmission guy, he was like an old school transmission guy. He'd been doing it since he was 16 years old. He was in his 50s, and he taught me everything about transmissions. And he was like, we were transitioning from like 700 R4s, 400s into 4L80s, 4L60Es, that whole 4T60, that the electronic side. And he was like, I don't want to touch that shit. So give that to the kid. And that was my job. So I had to learn all the electronic stuff and he just did all the old school stuff. So I got all that cool old school knowledge from him, but then still learned how to like why a computer controlled transmission works differently than a regular transmission. But yeah, that was probably the best piece of advice I ever got. Cause that then taught me forever. Cause then that's just a great rule to have. Cause then once you understand it, then you can break it. Cause then you know how to take the shortcut.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah.
You can't just like, back it off. Yeah, you
Yeah, I
know.
like that a lot. Yeah, after you figured it out, then you can figure out how to
cheat it.
Well, then you know how.
it's
Then
just-
you know how far one way or the other you're going.
Well, my wife hates it because I always tell her, I'm like, because we'll be driving the truck and I'll like hear a noise and she'll like, what's that? And I'm like, it's nothing to worry about. Because that's the worst thing about being a mechanic is like, oh shit, we got to pull.
That's something to worry about right now.
Yeah, that noise we got to fix like now. That other noise, it's fine for another 1,000 miles. It'll
It
be
will be
okay.
good.
Yeah, that metal on metal brake pad that just spit out we can drive home with that. It's fine.
Yeah,
But
you know exactly how long you can stretch that for.
it's the worst. It's like that plumber's toilet never flushes. Like that's the life of a mechanic, right? Like that's almost the worst thing because you always know how far you can push a car, and you can still get home. So it's a curse, but it's also a benefit.
It is funny how that works. My wife's got a BMW SUV. I bought it fucking new, and she says it's making a fucking noise. So I get in, I'm driving, and I'm like, first she says it's making a noise. I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, just keep driving. Well, then I get in and drive it. I'm like, oh, the front diff is fucked. I'm like, call the fucking BMW dealership. Tell them the front diff is junk in this thing, and take it in, and tell them to fucking swap it out or something.
Yeah.
So she's like, well, I'll just take it in. She takes it in. The front diff's junk. They swapped the front diff out. I'm like, oh, all right. I'm not a fucking mechanic, but
When my son wrecked his Jetta, he replaced it with a 328 wagon. That was what he bought, right? And so that was his car, and he took it to college. And that car at college, every time you open the hood, it cost me $1,000, like no matter what. So he brought it home. So I went to get him the next summer, and I towed it home. And I told him, so he went back for his third year, and I said, you're not taking that car back to Tucson because that's where he went to school. And I said, take a Jeep. You're not taking this car. I'm fixing this fucking car for you. I'm done playing this game. And so he thought I was going to sell it on him. So he called me and goes, you're not going to sell my car. And I'm like, nope, I'm fixing it. So he came home for Christmas to an LS swap.
I was going to say, you put an LS in it. That's you're fixing it.
But the best part was it was 6-liter LS Tremec conversion.
oh,
So, and he showed up and I said, you know how to drive a stick, right? And he's like, well, I drove your truck, but it was a Ram 25. I was like, this is very different. So we took him over to high school, and I'm like, I'm going to sit in a lawn chair over there. Worst thing, if anything happens, just let the clutch out and just stab it. And a set of tires later, he learned how to drive stick. Yeah. So that's his, he still has that. That's one of his dailies is a 328 wagon LS Tremec.
I bet that's a lot of fun.
Dude, that car is honestly, LS swapping it was like, it's so funny because the dude who sells the kit, it's like the new Camaro, like it in my mind. And I called him and I talked to him on the phone. So he sells a whole kit for $1,000, including the CAN bus controller.
They work all the gauges and all that stuff?
Everything.
That's
Even
a
the
great kit.
air conditioning. So it's a Holley Terminator X factory. He sends you the wiring harness to tap into the factory BMW pedal. Converts the oil temperature gauge over to a water temperature gauge, and he sells this for $1,000. And I was like, dude, just that CAN bus box alone is $1,000. Like that's a problem solver.
Yeah.
And he said, dude, you don't understand. This is a $5,000 car. This is, if I sell this for any more money, I won't sell it. Cause this is like that the people who are buying my kit, that's their price threshold. It's $1,000. Anything more than that, I'll never sell any one of these things.
How many times you pop the hood and it costs you $1,000?
Not nothing. And the best part is now it's like because he's not a car kid, but a car guy, but at the same time, like now it'll spit a belt and he can fix it. And on the side of the road, he'll be like, oh, it spit the belt. I put a belt on it. It's no problem.
You just paid for it up front because you spent like 40-50 grand to.
It really wasn't it wasn't that
$1,000
bad
at
because
time.
we did a truck 6-liter. It wasn't anything fancy. And then with the Tremec, I got one from Tremec, obviously. So I mean that's like $3-4 grand. And then everything else was just $1,000 to do the swap. And then at the same time, I threw air ride at it and all that kind of junk. So I probably put 20 grand into it. But at the same time, in that car, when he bought it was $5 grand. It's a 2007. He bought it probably in 17. That car off the lot was a $59,000 car. And so he bought a 10-year-old car is worth like 10% of its value, which is crazy. But that chassis is like, when we did the show, we brought a BMW guy in. That chassis is like nasty. Like when he explained it to me, I was like, dude, that 328 chassis, it's thought out. It's like the fuel tank is saddlebagged over, like it's perfectly weight balanced. The battery is in the right rear to compensate for the driver. It's thought out. It's a good car. And when you talk to drifter guys, that's why they like it so much, because it's like so thought out.
It sounds like
It's Germans, man.
fucking LS swapped 328 wagon sounds pretty
Yeah, that
fucking
sounds
fun.
fucking awesome.
Oh, it's a great car to drive. I'll borrow it from him whenever I can. I just like, it's so
bet.
much fun. But
Be a good
and-
little daily.
yeah, it is. It's a great daily. I have another friend who did the same swap, but he did an auto and he loves it. He dailies it. And the beauty of it is you then lose the premium fuel because the BMW's got to run 91 and we just built a little truck LS that can do 87 all day long.
Yeah.
And we took
Could
it
it handle more power? Could it handle a little fucking turbo or something?
Oh, it could. Yeah, the diffs in those. I think if I threw more power at it, I'd do like a limited slip diff in the back. The problem is those diffs. I pulled it apart. I couldn't believe it. The ring gear is actually welded to the carrier from the factory. It's not bolted. It's literally like if you want to re-gear it, you got to cut it. You got to cut the ring gear off the carrier. What most people do is they do like a full. On the front suspension, I literally bought an entire M Sport front everything, and that was like $500 to completely upgrade the front end. And I could buy a complete M Sport rear for the same for another $1,000, and then you'd get the limited slip and everything in the back. So that'd be the hot ticket for the back of that thing. But yeah, you could throw power at it all day long.
Sounds like some next winter little.
That'd be a ripper. Nowadays, you could put a fucking like newer DCT behind the LS Beamer and control that.
So I guess that's the hot swap right now. Guys are doing like that BMW,
Yeah.
that trans in behind a bunch of LT stuff, right? I've seen a couple guys do that. That's a pretty nasty transmission, which is cool.
Yeah, I've been following it for a while. I haven't had that opportunity to do it. I haven't had the right project, but that looks like a fun little ripper.
Ian, it's been great. Fun time.
Same, my friend.
Fucking cheers again.
Same to you.
Finish them off.
Oh, we got to run through these whiskeys, man. these are.
Oh, we do have to do a whiskey review.
Oh,
don't
it's
we?
the official whiskey
because
review.
These are badass.
Before we do the whiskey review, at Ian at Big Tire Garage, right?
That's
Or-
the easiest way to find me. Yep.
easy. Whiskey review time.
What are we gonna start with?
I don't know. I thought you were doing it.
All right, we started with the Chattanooga deal, right?
Yeah,
So
we
let's
did.
hit that.
That was the chat 111. Yep.
111. This is a buddy of yours, you say, huh?
Yeah, so that's an old school friend of mine. Tim's been around forever. I mean, we did a bunch of TV stuff with him, shot a bunch of stuff at his distillery, and he's just a good cat. Yeah, if you're ever down in Chattanooga, let me know. I'll hook you up with him. He's a good guy, just to know.
I'd love to, man. Yeah, obviously a good marketer. The bottle's fucking beautiful. That's good stuff. That was crazy smooth, I thought, and then it just kind of burns.
For a 111, it's solid.
Burns you a little bit
know?
on the backside, but
Yeah.
I liked it. I liked it quite a bit.
It was a lot of cinnamon. It was very like Christmas spice. It does have a little burn, but it doesn't drink like 111.
No.
Doesn't have the Jack Daniels flavor that I was expecting. I was a little nervous going into it because it's everything very distinctive out of the Jack Daniels and that
Yeah,
Oh, you're
style.
talking about the Tennessee whiskey.
yeah. Jack's got a real serious mash note. I mean, have you tried the Jack triple mash yet?
I've not.
Put
I've
that on
kind
your
of tried to
list.
stay away from
So I didn't
most things.
like. I like Jack, but I mean, I like Jack because I'm friends with a couple of the master distillers who've pushed out of there, and they're cool cats. But Jack has, I will admit, like traditional black label Jack is harsh. Like it's just what it is.
Yeah.
It's a serious drinking. But like Gentleman Jack,
I've
Gentleman
tried a
Jack.
bunch of those. And
So
the
Gentleman,
Sinatra
the
and
Gentleman
other
Jack
ones.
is a little bit smoother because it runs through the Lincoln County process twice. So the Gentleman Jack, it goes through the charcoal 2 times. That's the whole point of the Gentleman Jack. But they've got this thing called triple mash that I didn't even know existed. I was just on a trip, saw it at a liquor store, bought it, and sitting around the fire. We were on one of our little off-road adventure trips, and I just bought it at a liquor store. And before I knew it, I drank the entire bottle sitting around the fire one night, and it's really, really good. So if you see it, and it's not crazy expensive. It's like a $30, $40 bottle of Jack, but it was really, really good. Yeah.
I struggle with the Jack Daniels products. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I love the name, I love the image, I love the heritage, but damn, it's tough to drink.
It's the reality is behind the Jack stuff. It's mass produced stuff. I mean, that's the end of the day, right? So my Jack Daniel's story is, so years ago, I was on the bus coming back from SEMA, coming from the airport to the parking place, right? And I'm sitting on the bus just riding back from SEMA, and this guy leans over and he goes, "Hey, dude, I'm a big fan of your show," and he hands me a business card. And I kind of look over at him, and he's got like Jack Daniels logo on his shirt, Jack Daniels on his belt, Jack Daniels on his jeans. Like it's Jack, everything he owns.
He's a big fan, or he's
Yeah, Jack Daniels had thrown up on this individual, right? And then I look at the business card, and it's Jeff Arnett, Master Distiller, Jack Daniels. And I was like, dude, and he said, anytime you come to the distillery, let me know. I'll give you a private tour. So we did a trip. A bunch of my buddies went there, went 4-wheeling, and he's a legit car dude. He like went through school to be like a project manager car guy.
Yeah.
He worked for like Dayco wiper blades or something like that first.
That's cool.
And then he ended up back at Jack. And so he's got that history behind him. And he told us the whole spiel behind Jack, and it was good. And I mean, he's very open about the fact that, Jack Daniels does this really well and this not so well. Like it, and that's just the reality. And the unofficial story that he told me about Jack is that like he went in, they took some like single barrel stuff and they entered it into a whiskey competition and they won. And so he went into the marketing department down on Music Row in Nashville, and he walks in there and he's all proud and he puts the medal down. He's like, "We won this distillery competition." And they were like, "Yeah, that's great, Jeff. Why were sales Black Label off 10% last year?" And he was like, "No, you don't understand. This is like Walmart winning the small business award." And they said, "Yeah, that's not what we're concerned about." And he said, "Well, you know what? Then this isn't the place for me." And he packed his bags and went home and opened a new distillery. So like, if you're willing to walk away from that gig, that says a lot about,
Yeah.
Cause he's like, "I want to make good whiskey. That's my main thing." And so, yeah. So like Jack it's but it has a heritage to it, but yeah, I agree. It's not a easy drinking.
it just has a very distinct taste across the whole product line. Like you look at Woodford, for example, like Woodford just Woodford Reserve. It's very like identifiable, right? You'd always know that you're drinking Woodford Reserve, but everything across their product line doesn't have that like same mash bill or doesn't taste the same. Like you can't drink some specialty Woodford and be like, oh, that's Woodford Reserve.
Yep.
Jack Daniels, I mean, I don't care if it's a $700 bottle or a $11 bottle. It's like,
It's Jack.
Daniels.
Yeah, you know it's Jack. Yeah. Have you been to Woodford? You been to their distillery?
No.
So yeah, I went to Woodford years ago on another one of our 4-wheeling trips, and what blew my mind there was we did the tour, and the guy does the tour, and you do the standard like, here's the white dog, here's the this, here's the that, here's the this, right? And then they walk out at the end, they put a piece of dark chocolate down on everyone's table.
Yep.
And then they said, all right, now eat the dark chocolate and then drink the double oak. And you eat the dark chocolate and drink the double oak, and it's a completely different bourbon.
Yeah.
It tastes absolutely, yeah. And I'd never done that before. And it blew my mind because I was like, dude. And I was like, do I look like I need a reason to eat more chocolate? Like, what are you doing to me? And so at that point forward, I'm like, I wonder if a Snickers bar will do this thing. It's terrible.
Reese's peanut butter.
You try a blizzard, maybe from DQ.
Oh, yeah, maybe a blizzard. Drop a blizzard on this.
I went to that Bourbon and Beyond festival. It's like an outdoor concert kind of venue in Louisville, Kentucky.
Yep.
And they've got all kinds of distillers out there. So Barter House was out there, and they were giving like a seminar. So they do this deal, and they give you like a plate of, they give you a Payday candy, and then like a ginger, like a chewy ginger candy, and then what's that? Pop Rocks.
Yep.
Is another one.
Oh, yeah.
And they pair them with ryes
Really?
and bourbons, and they kind of walk you through it. I don't really pay a lot of attention to what people generally say.
Really?
So I didn't retain all of it, but Google it. It's a lot of good information there.
There were things said that
There were
could be
things
good.
said that made it taste way better.
It's mind blowing the way it like the Payday brings out all kinds of crazy stuff from the rye.
It's bonkers how much that changes. Yeah, it blew when they gave you that dark chocolate, and so you take a bite of the dark chocolate and then you drink the Woodford. It was completely different, and it blew my mind how different and when you play the game with all these guys, right? Like a little bit of water, a little bit of this, everything changes. Yeah, everything changes.
There's some science to it for sure.
Oh, it's a lot. I mean, it's wild how like different times of day, different day. They go to a bottle. If you open a brand new bottle you never had and you try it, you're like, I don't know if I like that. I always am like, that's fine. Give it some time. I'm gonna come back to that one. You might come back to that one and you're like, man, I kind of like this, didn't I? I thought I didn't like this. This is really fucking good.
Yeah, the best when it comes to drinking whiskey, the best advice I was ever given was by like a bourbon person in Kentucky, and they said that first sip, throw that shit away. Like that first sip means nothing. That's like it's always fucking gasoline at the end of the day, no matter what. And so ever since then, it's like if I take something, I take a sip because I used to hate Dickel, and I still don't really like Dickel, but I'll give it more time now. Now I'll taste it and be like, maybe a little bit of water might make this a little bit better. But yeah, because that first sip is just it can knock the shit out of you in a heartbeat. Yeah, especially high proof stuff. I mean, that's the game you play, right? Me personally, I know that my palate is I'm always in that 110 and above. That's my sweet spot. Yeah, I want high proof liquor. Yeah, all day long. I don't want I went back to Canada for Christmas, and like everything there is taxed based on alcohol volume, so nothing is more than 80 proof because it's so expensive, right?
Yeah, 80 proof's tough. I mean it's like
it's water.
Yeah,
it's so bad. I mean, I'm buying all this, and I bought some rye and my son was drinking it, and it was so funny because I'm looking over, and Canadian rye is also pretty harsh because it's very, very harsh rye, and he's drinking it, and I can watch him. He takes a sip, and he's just like trying to push through it, and I'm just like, just put some ginger ale in there. Life will be good. Don't worry about that.
The Canadian whiskeys, though, I mean, there's some good stuff there.
There's a lot. I mean, so on another whiskey story is, when you tour the distillery and they always tell you that the barrels always go somewhere else to be reused. And I never believed that till I was in France with my wife, and we're driving through this countryside out near Normandy, and there's all these cornfields. And I said, there's gotta be a whiskey distillery with all this corn. There's no way you're making this much corn in France. This is crazy. So I asked somebody, and they're like, oh, there's a distillery down the road here. So I went down to that. We took a tour of it, and as we're touring it, they're giving the whole spiel, same tour, same everything as every distillery. And then he goes, and then what happens is the master distiller will then taste the distillate and determine what barrel it will go in. And then you walk in this warehouse and it's like a scene from like that Indiana Jones and the Law, where it's just a warehouse that goes on forever. And it was pallets of barrels and they were all labeled Jim Beam, Jack Daniels, Buffalo Trace. And they were,
Wow.
And that's how they sold it. Like the barrel said like blah, 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 12-year whiskey aged in Jack Daniels barrels. And that was how they literally marketed all the, or aged in
Different
Buffalo
approach.
Trace. Yeah, it was great.
Everybody's
We're
trash
taking
is
all the
somebody
French
else's.
wine.
I know.
Yeah, it was,
That's fucking liquor shit. It's a whole different story, but everything, it doesn't matter if you're making fucking tequila and something,
put
whatever
it in
your
something
waste,
else.
whatever your waste is, sell it to the guy that's making bourbon, and he's going to use that
Yep.
to put infused in his. And when he's done with that barrel, sell his waste to this guy. And like, oh, I'll throw some of that shit in my fucking gin. Yeah,
Yeah.
fuck yeah.
It's all marketing.
Yep.
Like you could spin it however you want.
yeah. I always say that, but that's my rule of energy drinks. They all taste like shit. Just somebody's a better marketer than everybody else. That's
Yeah.
the reality of it. There's not a good energy drink out there.
What's the rating? Chattanooga whiskey. Give it a number.
I'm gonna give it a 7.3.
Whoa.
I liked
Ooh,
it. I
that's
liked it.
high.
I liked it quite a bit.
Shit.
There we go.
Yeah, I thought that was good.
Uh,
Yeah, that resonated with me. I enjoyed it. It was a little hot, but absolutely on the buy it list.
I'm
And I like the bottle, man. I like the
Yeah, that
cork.
probably gave it an extra.
I think that gave it. I think that gave it a point. I'd have probably gone 7.2 if it wasn't an embossed bottle
Was it
with
an
a cork.
embossed bottle with a cork in it? Yeah.
great bottle, a lot of flavor. I'm gonna go 7-0. I'm gonna go 7 even.
I like this way better.
Really?
Yeah.
This one,
So this you should like better because this is literally twice as much as that.
Oh, winner.
Yeah. So like I like I said before, I always like rate my whiskeys on the dollar price of it.
yeah.
But
Then you're shocked sometimes.
it
too.
is true, but yeah, like that. Like I said, that's like a $50 bottle, and this is like a $90 bottle.
this blew me away when I saw such a high corn. I was like,
Yeah. I figured it'd be like
so the first time I toured this distillery and they said that, I thought this is gonna be terrible.
yeah.
This is gonna be so hard and so
drinking
hot.
E85.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I'm gonna give it so much higher because it blew me away. So it was really, really good. Don't get me wrong, but when I saw that corn, and then when I tasted it, I was like, "Holy shit, this is good." Mm-hmm. Yeah. So your number on Chattanooga?
I'm gonna go 6.8 on the Chattanooga and 7.2 on the Leipers Fork.
Yeah, that's a good number. 7.2 on the Leapers Fork for sure. Yeah, 7.2. I liked it.
It was good. It's interesting to see that it actually has an age on it, 4 years for like a kind of a boutique-y type distillery. Rare. It's nice to rate it like prior to knowing the price, you
Yeah.
know, just so you're not gauging it on.
What would
because
you-
I'm always curious to
You would
see
have rated
like,
it below this?
I honestly would because and I liked it a lot, but I'm always curious to see if you like slid somebody like a Pappy 10, like you know,
Without knowing.
or a Weller 12, and you don't tell them like what it is just to see how the rating is. But I did like that quite a
Slip
bit.
some Armenian cognac in there and say it's
Well,
Pappy 12.
that is a feather in that's a feather in your cap for being a seasoned bourbon drinker to being. What the fuck is this shit? Is this gone bad?
Yeah. Pulled out the bottle of Pappy. I went downstairs.
That was
to
a
get
20-year.
something.
they hot swapped you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I took a sip of it and they're all just like staring at me like,
It was identical. The color was.
I have
could
a
not
friend.
tell the
I have a
difference.
friend who's a big wine guy, and he does that. He'll like literally like decant a bottle of $2 Chuck and put like a $500 bottle of red beside it, and then just watch everybody like, oh man, you can totally taste the. And he just it's fucking $2 Chuck, man. It's just garbage wine.
We tried it with Phil. We poured it. We were shocked because it is identical in color to Pappy 20. And me and Josh are sitting there with we're celebrating something. Phil takes one sip and you just like, I've never seen a face quite like that. It was
it was like he was saying, you have those days where like whatever's on your tongue and you're like, just the whiskey's not hitting right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm like, oh, this is Pappy.
It's like drinking whiskey after you had some hot Takis.
Looks
Yeah,
at
I
both of
understand
us.
completely.
Like I've had it before and I really, really like it. I don't want to look like an asshole and say this stuff's bad, but
I really am surprised you like this one more. From your generally what you gravitate to with 111, it was spicy.
It might have been transitioning from that to that if you'd have flip flopped them, but I think Phil's spot on with the review on the 7.2. I liked it. I like it a lot just because it's Leipers fork, and I've got like a thing for. I just picture myself like
sitting.
It's so picturesque.
On
there,
a hillside,
like,
chilling in
holding
Leipers
hands
Fort
with
with
some other
William
dude.
Shatner,
Exactly.
talking about
me and Chris Stapleton were just like giving each other noogies, like just talking about.
Just
like,
telling you what.
be
This
like, man,
fucking
you
tonight-
like Waylon? You listen to Waylon? Man, I love Waylon Jennings. What's wrong with that?
Nothing.
Hanging with Chris Stapleton wouldn't be cool.
Yeah, I'm sure he wouldn't like a fucking noogie.
Well, he would give me one. I feel like he'd be like,
based on your
better if you said Hank 3, that'd be better.
based on
hey,
your statements about
I love some Hank 3. Definitely get down with some Hank 3.
Have you tried Stapleton's bourbon yet?
I have not. No, I have not. I don't get and it's funny. We had this conversation before. So I have a friend who recently sold his distillery, and now he's working for a company that is a private label distillery. It's kind of like an MGD, but they're based out of Tennessee. And if anyone in any country music world makes a whiskey, it comes from them. And we've talked about doing a Big Tire Garage whiskey. And so they've dropped some samples off and stuff. And so he's literally brought me and he's like, this is so-and-so's whiskey. This is so-and-so's whiskey. And like, so I know all of them. They're all made at the same place. And you can play around with it a little bit, but it's literally, it's just batch out the back door. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's not, but what amazed me was that like how reasonable it is to get into the business right now. That's what blew my mind.
It's probably reasonable to get in the business, but do you think it's reasonable to get into the business and then make money in the business?
It's 6 of one, half a dozen the other. Like it. So do you know Castle and Key?
Yeah,
They'll start
that's right behind you.
We just had
Castle
that
and
last.
So I was at
podcast.
Castle and Key before Castle and Key went into actual distilling. So I knew Marion Barnes, who was their original master distiller, and we went up and toured it when it was still like in its like they were basically opening up the old Taylor distillery. And we got in the door and we did a tour and stuff. And I met the investors and I talked to them. I said, "Is this like a viable thing? Like is this a business that you should invest in?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, it's going to cost us X number of million to come out, to get everything turned around and come out the back door." He said, "But if the first batch sells, it's 10X on investment. So it's 5 million in, 50 million out. But that's if you own the distillery. If you just want to get in and like own a bourbon brand or own a whiskey, it's literally you just double your money if you're good at marketing. So it's like 50 grand in, you'll come out with 100 grand at the end of the day." And that's just kind of how it plays out. But it's just literally at this point, it's just like Kid Rock has a whiskey because Kid Rock wants a whiskey. That's just what it boils down to at this point in time, right? So,
And come with a pack of Marlboro Reds.
it should,
or
and like a restraining order of some type.
ankle bracelet.
buy 2 bottles, get a free wife beater.
That's Pall Malls, not Marlboro Reds.
Yeah, get a free domestic violence charge.
Payback's a bitch.
That's interesting to know. I've always been curious about the profits that come from all these startup bourbon companies.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's so many, like literally, like if you get into that whole batch whiskey game right now, like now, honestly, now's the time to get into it if you want to get into it because it's literally bulk whiskey is the cheapest it's ever been.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've talked to him and like 10 years ago, what was $5,000 a barrel is now $1,300 a barrel. We're flooded. The market is just saturated at this point.
Overreacted to the demand and
Yeah, well, it's a 4-year window, right? You've got to look out. Like when you talk to the guys who play the game, right? They understand. Like someone told me once, there's like for every resident of Kentucky, there's like 10 barrels of bourbon in some storage facility somewhere.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's how much bourbon is because it takes 4 years to come out the back end. Like 2 years at the minimum, but 4 years if you want to make a good pile of money. Huh. But yeah, it's a massive amount of money, massive amount of bourbon that's just going to come out at some point in time. And then the question is it still, are people still going to want to buy it or are we going to flip and everybody wants the Rocks tequila?
Yeah.
Like that's the tricky part, right?
Fucking 2 to 4 years to come out the back end. I mean, what do you think Taco Bell is?
that's 15, 20
minutes.
minutes.
Thanks again. Thanks for listening to Oil and Whiskey with the Roaster Shop, an Ironclad original. If you like the show, be sure to leave a rating and review. Thanks again to Ian. We'll see you again next week.